Second and 1. Keep it on the ground. Smith, touchdown. The Bears strike again.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Van Dyke on the slant. Rambo, touchdown. Back and forth we go.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Giants secondaries dropped some picks this year for sure as Prescott steps into it. Cooper, touchdown, Dallas.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Backside heat, fumble, got knocked loose. It's on the ground. Loose ball. A big hit by T.J. Franklin. And the Bears have the football. And McClain is lit.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Wednesday afternoon. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. I just went on the YouTube channel, and Sooner JJ let us off today. Let's do this. Mike asks, hey guys, let's look forward to a great show. And Mike Bean Rock Chalk. John Kelly, good afternoon, y'all. Scotty, ready to see what the new women's basketball offense looked like for the Lady Bears. And then Blake, you guys need to get a life. Laugh out loud. All right, even Matt Carver, Baylor 30, score 30. Baylor beats Texas, and then also Chromiux. Will Middle Tennessee State and Western Kentucky go to the MAC? Those are just some of the stories, and yet always changing times in conference realignment.
Did Old Dominion fans bank on moving conferences this year?
I don't think so.
Did some of these other fan bases? I know Baylor fans didn't. Plan on moving conferences, and they ended up staying. There was 8 teams that eventually had to figure out where they were going or what it was going to look like, and they ended up all staying in the same place. But as a byproduct of that, there's a dozen teams or so that are all jumping around. So it's been a very interesting year as far as that goes, and that still continues the whole realignment phase.
We will focus today with a couple of national writers. Connor O'Neill covers Wake Forest. What a year they had. They put up a 70 spot on Army, and they did it like in 17 minutes of possession. Kobe Price covers Miami, will join us from the South Florida Sun-Sentinel at 4 o'clock. And then we'll also check in with Kirk Bowles of the Austin American-Statesman on UT. J.J. Joe, Baylor radio color analyst, will join us, and also John Machota, the Cowboys at Athletic.com, theathletic.com. So a couple of coaching notes. And by the way, lines are open, 254-339-1122. Jeff Traylor, when he was asked about the job at UT San Antonio, he responded with this when it comes to conversations about Texas Tech, etc. President and Igme and also Dr. Campos.
I think it's Amy.
And Dr. Campos have been in front of this for a while. They've been very active in their conversations with me this entire year. We're just working through some details. We're trying to get some things finalized so we can move forward together. That's a pretty good comment. That doesn't mean that he hasn't been contacted or won't be, or does it? But that's like UT San Antonio saying, we're going to get out in front of this. Now, can they get out in front of it enough with enough money? I don't know. But I like the statement from Jeff Traylor. Does that mean he's staying? No, but I like that one probably better than most of the ones I've heard this week.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that means anything about him staying in San Antonio. I think that's, what a coach it depends on the coach because, like you said, that's one of the stronger statements we've seen, but it's still not convincing me that he's not looking at leaving San Antonio. I mean, and I have a lot of respect for Jeff Traylor. So, yeah, I think as a UTSA fan, you look at that statement and you say, hey, that does give you some confidence, some positive feeling that, hey, just maybe there's a chance that he really does love it in San Antonio. And, we've been through this 3-4 times now. We've seen it around the rest of the Big 12 as well. And, this is part of the deal is tracking flights and, looking at Twitter pages and then also looking into quotes as deeply as possible. So I think if you're a UTSA fan, this was a positive quote, but it's definitely not one that is concrete and you can go ahead and write off your coach leaving after this season.
Paul, Catalina, Penn State, James Franklin has flipped agents from Trace Armstrong, who's one of the best, to Jimmy Sexton, who's one of the best.
Yeah, and I don't know if this necessarily means he's leaving, but usually you don't change agents when you're going to stay, I think, or that when you're planning on staying, or because he's got two schools that want him, USC and LSU, and I guess three because Penn State doesn't want him to leave. So he's got a different bargaining position now, and sometimes you change agents just to get a new perspective of that. And look, nobody, and as great as Trace Armstrong is an agent, and he's fantastic, nobody gets more money out of schools for nothing than Jimmy Sexton. Nobody makes a school negotiate against itself better. So now when they have to negotiate against two other schools, can you imagine how much Penn State's going to have to buck up to James Franklin to convince him to stay when USC and LSU are open and he's a candidate for both those jobs? Unbelievable.
Yeah, so that's a story when it comes to the coaching change or at least coaching situations around the country as well.
What do you think about the Traylor statement?
I think it's a very powerful one. Powerful's not there. I think that's a positive statement. I know Jeff, I have not spoken with him. I've left him alone. I've left alone a couple of coaches that might be involved in coaching searches here over the next 2 or 3 months or even maybe sooner than that. I've left him alone. He's got enough people probably picking at him and texting him and trying to get in touch with him. I will at some point. I feel confident that he and I can talk. But I think that's a pretty good statement. That might be, Dave Aranda released a pretty good statement, but it wasn't a denial.
No. Matt Rule danced around it.
Matt Rule and then the others as well. And I think in this particular case, James Franklin switching agents, coaches do that too. That might just be to set up, making sure he just feels like maybe that for whatever reason Sexton can do better than Trace Armstrong. And I think Trace Armstrong, is that Matt Rule's agent?
It is.
Got $9 or $10 million from Carolina, so he's pretty good at what he does, right?
Yeah. And he's Jim. Let's see. Sexton has Jimbo Fisher, and he had Art Briles. He was Art Briles' agent, and
I thought he did a horrible job with that one. That's another story.
But he was Art Briles' agent when Art Briles didn't say no to the Texas job when asked about it. I mean, that's another we can go back to when. He didn't say no, both the Texas Tech job and the Texas job. When asked about it, Art Briles kind of did the same thing every coach does and talked around the issue and not at it, which is fine. That's what they do. But, you can't – I don't know if I'll ever see a coach because you don't want to be in that position where you say, I love it here and I'm not leaving here in the college ranks. I mean, we saw Mike Tomlin do it in the NFL, which is a little different thing. But I love it here and I'm not leaving here. But – in college, they're not doing it. It's just not going to happen.
We've talked about all these coaching changes, Ed Orgeron and others that have been held in at USC. Do you have this, Armstrong? I sent you a couple of emails from Ross Dellinger of SI.com. He has a story. 5 FBS coaches have been fired before November. It's the most this early in a season in at least 10 years, and maybe ever, on the coaching carousel, which has never spun so early. Now, we've gotten almost numb to coaching changes no matter when they are. Then he puts up the years. Last year there was one. The most that he could see in the last 10 years was 2015 and 16. There were 4, but most of the time it's 1 or 2. In 2013, there were 3. One school has fired 3 coaches before November in the last decade. Southern Cal with Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, and then, of course, this year with Helton.
Yeah, and those were kind of all weird situations. Kiffin was the whole, won't even take him to the team plane or whatever that, I can't even remember it now, but the whole airport thing. Sarkisian obviously had some issues to deal with. So that wasn't like a, straight up just, hey, you had your 5 years and you didn't perform and we're getting rid of you. That was Sarkisian needed to go get some help. And now he's, rebounded and is at Texas. And so Clay Helton, is the one here as of late. And that one was one that for like 2 or 3 years it's been speculated about, quite frankly. I mean, it feels that way, at least. It was talked about for quite a long time. And so they kind of, Texas Tech kind of pulled a USC of the same thing, where it's been talked about for what feels like a little while, and you finally just say, all right, we know we have to make a change. And so I think it's also, the fact that you're trying to get at the first in line. And I don't know how much that really helps. I don't know if it helps that Tech is knowingly wide open or that USC is knowingly wide open right now versus a school that will get open at the end of the year. I mean, does that help? Because if it helps, then guess what's going to become a real trend?
Yep.
Coaches getting fired midseason because everybody wants to get first in line, which I hope doesn't happen. But if this does benefit those schools who are doing it at awkward but early times, then other schools will follow suit.
You mentioned it because of the early signing period. That was one of the things you said is the benefit of getting rid of somebody or letting them walk out or firing them, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have to turn this around. National Signing Day is like 7 weeks from now.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing is not necessarily who you're going to get in that regard, because you still, for the most part, so say Jeff Traylor is going to Texas Tech, just hypothetically, he is. He's still not going to leave UTSA right now and take that job and go recruit for Texas Tech. He's going to wait until December 5th or 6th to take that job. So he's still really.
You think that can stay quiet until then, if that was to be the case?
No
way. But even so, he still can't recruit for Texas Tech while he's employed by UTSA. I mean, theoretically, in the rules. But so you're still not, for the most part, a lot of these coaches aren't leaving their job. James Franklin's not going to leave until Penn State's regular season is over. So if he does leave, so he can't exactly go hit the road and recruit. But what it does save you from is the coach who is there going out on the road for 6 weeks and going, heck yeah, you should come to Texas Tech University.
You know who may have done it the best but is now on the hot seat the most? What Scott Frost did when he was at UCF. He went back and forth on a private jet. Again, back and forth, but continued to be a part of his team. And I don't know when the last day he was there, if it was after the bowl game when they beat Auburn and then he was done. And that doesn't mean he wasn't working on some things with Nebraska at the same time. But I thought he handled it well. I wish he could coach that well, because he handled the exit, even though UCF fans weren't real thrilled about it. Here's a couple more things to get to in the text line. We'll take calls here in a second as well. This is from Blake was having some sound issues, but everyone said it was Blake. Also, John Kelly, good afternoon. Hope everyone's been good, had a great week. Paula, great day in Waco. John Kelly, glad I could make it in today. And then also, Mike said, I have made it. We can begin. Mike, we appreciate that as well. So a lot of things are going on. And just saying hi, a lot of people doing that as well. From Mike Games, Youngstown State to the MAC, make it happen. So think about this. In late July, Craig and Paul, late July you have Texas and Oklahoma, 2 big blue bloods, right, that shake up college football with what the story is about the SEC. And it's affected Old Dominion. And it's affected several schools that, when that happened, I think most people were thinking big, right? And it has affected big. But think about how many people have been affected because of that story, all the way down to some schools who have just really recently started playing football.
And guess who doesn't care? Texas and Oklahoma. They don't care. They don't care what this started. They're going to be in their spot. But, yeah, it's affected probably 24 schools in some form or fashion. And really, when you think about the ramifications of conferences now in some cases hanging on by a thread or having to scramble to find teams to replace, they've affected even more than just a couple of dozen. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to look at, I don't know what the final total will be, but around 10 teams or so are moving conferences now.
Oh, I think,
if not more than that. I don't know, like I said, the exact number.
Well, there could be 8 before it's all said and done with just the Big 12 alone,
right.
But right now it's 4. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it's more than 4 because there's other conferences that are having teams meet. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know what the total is, but it's over 10 or whatever at this point. So yeah, it's who knew at the time, but again, who knew when it dropped? Nobody but Texas's and Oklahoma's top guys, and obviously some officials from the SEC, and that was it. And so that bombshell, you had Baylor fans and TCU fans and Tech fans that thought like their Power 5 future or Autonomous 5 future might be in trouble, and the Big 12 might be dead. And now it's other conferences that are looking around thinking, how are we going to survive this, or what's this going to look like in a few years? So yeah, definitely had a massive effect across the landscape.
From the text line and then to the calls. From Mike, National Signing Day doesn't have near the luster it once had due to the early signing period.
Agreed.
No, we're talking about the early signing period. You're exactly right. February almost like, okay.
I don't think they should call it the early signing period anymore. It's the signing period.
Yeah, but
February
that's what we're talking about.
The late signing period.
That one in December is the one that maybe is forcing people to make these decisions even earlier.
You're right. There's a lot of excitement that used to surround that day that doesn't surround it anymore. I know if you've got like some 5-star who's in the top 3 or whatever, and he's making a decision on signing day, that's still a fun little routine or what have you to have every year as a fan. But for the most part, yeah, December's just it's kind of whatever. I mean, and even then, though, like that's when I imagine Baylor's going to sign 3/4 of their class on that day, so it should be a big deal. But it's lost some of its luster because of the day in February.
From Show Memo, here's another school. He said, "Hey, have a good day, y'all. Missouri State could be going to the Conference USA." So they're not dead yet. So we're talking about how this has trickled down from the very, very top to a Power 5 conference all the way down to multiple Power 5 conferences, 2 of them at least so far, all the way down to schools that are like wondering if they're going to survive, and I hope everybody has a chance. I really do. We're going to get into more of that. Back also a little bit here in a minute to the 10-game conference schedule. Would you like it or not? That poll we released yesterday, Jack put up 51% to 49%. It initially was 75 to 25%. They liked the idea. You did. And then I went on the website last night, and man, some of you guys came strong with a lot of opinions. And I think that maybe it was probably more 55-45 against it. Some people, of course, had other ideas, and that's fine too. It's one of the things the Big 12 has struggled with is not being ahead of the curve. They're always reacting. They had to react to Nebraska and Colorado. They had to react to A&M and Missouri. They had to react to Texas and Oklahoma. So one of the things I think they're trying to do is be ahead of the curve and not just think about now or next year or 2023, but where is everyone going to be in 10 years? Yes, you got to survive now, but I think they're also looking ahead. One of the notes about that, and then due to the calls, about the 10-game schedule, the SEC we know is almost bulletproof, but wouldn't that kind of say you're playing 10 and we're playing you're playing 8, even if you're talking Alabama, you're playing 8 and we're playing 10 conference games? You don't mean there's not some traction to that if you have teams that can win big games too?
You know what else I think it might do is when the SEC is negotiating with ESPN says, hey, we really like this Big 12 thing where we get all these conference games, and you guys are stuck on playing 8. We would like to see more of you guys against each other. That's why we organized this coup in the first place, to make more money and have more SEC games. So why don't you give us one?
From Jennifer, I think Bowlesby's been more proactive because he's no longer handcuffed by Texas and Oklahoma to some extent, and so we appreciate that. All right, 254-339-1122, Craig, and then the calls.
Yeah, I mean, we just kind of skipped over those Conference USA messages, and, they're down to 6. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. And you mentioned a couple of possibilities, and I'll be honest with you, that doesn't do a whole lot for me, like Missouri State. I mean, and I have nothing, no emotion in my body towards that school in any way. But as a football fan, I'm not going like, you know what, now I got to watch Conference USA. They got Missouri State now, or they got so-and-so now. I mean, you're starting to get to where, like, now there's teams that are becoming Division I. Like, how are we gaining teams in this whole thing? That's what Realignment's also done. It's not dropping and making it more elite. It's bringing more teams up. James Madison, great program. But they're, those are the schools
for where they have been, and maybe
right.
That's a great question.
So make it make sense. It doesn't make sense.
And that's one of the things, that's why you have to look not to the next 2 months or the next 2 years, but maybe 5 or 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
Because you're going to look up one of these days with those teams you play in non-conference. Let's say some of you have schools, Baylor's done this, they play an FCS right? With Sam Houston State, North Dakota State, whoever it might be. Still good teams. James Madison, whoever. What's going to happen is there's going to be more and more power or FBS schools, and then eventually the other conferences, if they do grow, aren't there going to be less and less group of fives? I know that some of them are now moving into it, but if you're going to, that's why if you play 10 conference games, they're not going to be a big pool of group of fives here if you look up in the next 3 or 4 years. That's also something to think about as well. I don't know that. That's just a thought to look ahead.
All right, let's go to Tracy from Cincinnati. Thanks for your call. You're on the Bet US caller line.
Hey, thanks, guys. Just to stay on topic, I didn't vote in this poll, but my vote for the Big 12 is yes, you have 10 games. And then you try to do the Big 12 SEC challenge in football. They already got it for basketball, right? So I would think that if you play 10 games in your own conference, that's the best competition you're going to get. And then plus you add 2 SEC games, and the SEC plays 2 games with your Big 12. This strength of schedule becomes no question if you win all those games, right? And just for the record, I'm a Michigan State alum, and so we've been circling this game since the schedule came out. And so we love that the media is loving on Michigan right now. But I'll tell you right now, Jim Harbaugh got his panties in a bunch right now because, if we don't win this game, he loses total legitimacy in the state of Michigan. We're going to get that Paul Bunyan trophy, you UM fans. And guess what? We're not even going to look back at you all as we march towards Ohio State, Penn State, and we go to the playoffs. Have a good day.
Hey, I got to ask you a question. Where were you, and what do you remember when Michigan State didn't they block a punt to beat somebody?
He just
hung up. Okay. Yeah. Remember that when they blocked a punt to win the game?
Michigan,
to beat Michigan. Yeah, it was insane. Thank you for the call. Love the passion. Go Spartans and Wolverines coming up this weekend.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, to his point, that would be a great idea if you were forming the NFL. But I don't see how, for one, the SEC would go for that. I don't think they want to tie themselves up with the Big 12, although, everybody else is aligned, so if you're going to align with somebody, but it'd be kind of problematic when they're just taking your 2 top teams. Hey, Texas and Oklahoma left. I don't know that they want to schedule non-cons with Baylor and Texas Tech, or unless it's like a one-off, like home and away type of a thing. But, maybe at some point there is some type of a scheduling alliance for those not in the alliance where you hook up at least one non-con game, like you said, in basketball every year. I'd be all for that, to take one of those non-con games. Now, if the Big 12 does the 10-game schedule, that's rolling the dice a little bit. If you draw Alabama, that's you're screwed either way.
Yeah, you're talking about the alliance? Yeah.
Yeah, if you were to do 10 conference games, then add an SEC game, if not 2, like he suggested, and then you have another it's something you got to give. Like, you either would have to expand the schedule, or you just can't do that.
Yeah, I don't think you'd do 2. If they go to 10 games,
right,
you're going to have some flexibility, but one of those games has to be against, which is going to be, you would think, a Power 5 team.
As a fan, I love it, though. I love your idea as a fan, but I just don't know if they would go for it.
One of the things we didn't even mention yesterday when it comes to scheduling 10 games, if 3 of the 5 power conferences are in a scheduling alliance, it might make it harder for you to schedule Power 5 non-con games, because if you call up an ACC, Big 10, or Pac-10 school and say, hey, we'd like to play you in 2031, you're like, well, we're booked to 2037 with this scheduling alliance, so it's going to be tough to wiggle you in as much as they may even want to do it. So 10 conference games allows you to tell them, like, hey, well, we only have to do that once, as opposed to twice.
And some teams already have games that are set. There's going to have to be some movement. Some teams that you have in non-conference are a part of an alliance now that's maybe not a part of what you thought before. JT, I'd love to see the Big 12 SEC Challenge 208. When will paperwork for Chapter 2 start happening? And has Boise State positioned themselves to make the jump to the Big 12? The paperwork, I believe the Big 12, I've said this before, we've reported this before, I think the Big 12 would like to really have paperwork, at least kind of the ink is wet by the end of November. That could change. They would like to do that so they can start the clock on other teams who are joining and their exit fees or exit time, wherever they're coming from. But I do think that Boise State, yes, I do think Boise State is among the top 2 Chapter 2 teams on the radar. We have mentioned that as well.
Yeah, and I know we want to go to the calls, but the caveat on Boise State, right, is when the Big 12 goes through with Phase 2, is everybody ready to go? And if not, and one of those 4, let's say Memphis, for example, because we've talked about them before, isn't ready to pull that trigger, well, then the Big 12 has a decision to make, because that would leave them with 3 candidates readily available, and you're not going to take an odd number of teams. It wouldn't make any sense to be like a 17-team league or whatever, a 15-team league. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of hinges on that. But I would say Boise would still be well-positioned, even if they were to only take 2. It seems to me that they would still be one of those 2. So I think they're, as long as they keep their T's crossed and their I's dotted, keep moving forward, I think they're in a good spot.
We've mentioned the 4 that the Big 12 wants to be a part of Chapter 2. They want them to be a part of Chapter 2. Memphis, Boise State, and then also SMU, and also the USF, University of South Florida. That's what they want. That would be the plan. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. That's why I think the end of November will be interesting on who has said yes in good faith and who has not yet done anything. Paul?
All right, let's go to Chris in Missouri. Thanks for calling the BetUS caller line.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. How you doing?
Doing well.
Great, thank you.
Hey, I've got a morality question for you, because Look, I'm going to make this simple. I know murder is wrong, and I don't want to get into the morality of it, but I have some friends who I really respect who I thought were kind of level-headed and are kind of going on the hawkish side here. Isemi Itune was the linebacker from Virginia Tech who is being charged with murder. He went on a site called Tinder, which I'm too old for, I guess, but he met a date who turned out to be a guy, and during the course of, relations, he ended up killing him. Most of my friends who I thought would have been like, let the jury sort it out, were like, the guy got what he deserved. And I'm just wondering, am I in the minority here thinking that, we should just let the courts handle this stuff? Anyway, I don't know what to think about it, so I just wanted to see what you guys thought. Thanks.
Okay. Look, I saw the story come day. I had a little alert about the story, read a little bit about it, have it here in front of me. Paul?
Yes, we should absolutely let courts decide it. That's what our society does. And murder is wrong. Like, it's, he was deceived, but does that mean he should murder someone? No. And the courts will sort that out. And I know it's we live in confusing times. We really do. It's confusing for a lot of people, and there's a lot of things changing. But I don't think that means you should kill people.
A lot's changed, Paul. But one thing that hasn't changed: murder's wrong.
Yeah,
murder is wrong. Don't kill people. Now, look, there are extenuating circumstances where you're fighting for your life or for the life of someone you love, and you've got to do what you got to do. This was a guy upset because he got fooled on a dating app, and it was a guy rather than a girl or whatever, and he was upset. You know what? I'd probably be upset too. I wouldn't kill the person. So he's wrong. Let the jury sort it out. Send him away. And, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
you punch the guy or something like that if you're pissed off. You don't kill the person,
You could do a lot of things, but one thing you can't do in anything, take someone's life.
Yeah.
And but appreciate the call and appreciate you asking us. But yeah, that was a crazy story, and that's far from over. All right?
Yeah. All right, Matt in D.C., you're on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for your call.
Matthew.
Thanks for taking my call. Not sure how to follow that call, but I'll just say, just defend yourself at all times if you're ever in a bad situation. But anyway, on the conference realignment, I think one of the weird benefits to the rest of the country, as much as I hate Texas and Oklahoma almost breaking up the Big 12, it looks like it's going to create a domino effect where a lot of teams that we're not ever going to have this opportunity to move up to like maybe a Power 5 or from FCS to FBS is going to get that opportunity. It looks like a lot of teams are going to be making a lot more TV money than they may have not made in the next 10 years. So maybe that's in the overall big picture. It is going to be better for college football with this realignment. If, James Madison or Sam Houston State now gets to move up. So, that's good for all the players, teams, and fans. On to Texas this week. From what I've understood and listened to all their podcasts, they're undisciplined on penalties. They're not a second-half team. And I think if we keep Bijan Robinson under 150 yards, we should beat them. And so I also say, hey, if we got a good lead going in the fourth quarter with control, put 50 on them. Because I remember 1989, we beat them 50-7. So all I'm asking is beat them 51-7. Thank you all.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate that, Matt in D.C. Text line. Here's one about. Go ahead. You answer.
Yeah, I think Baylor is in great position to win this game. Texas can be a little bit undisciplined at times. So can Baylor though too. Like we've seen them kind of get out of sorts, not for long stretches or anything, but we've seen them make some crucial penalties at times. But it's really interesting. This is a game where if the logo wasn't Texas, I think I'd be even more confident, but there's just something, as we talked about before with that logo, that you just give them like that little extra bump of consideration, you know what I mean? And so if this was like Virginia State rolling in, I'd be like, oh yeah, Baylor crushes them. But, it's Texas. And so even some down Texas teams have played some really good Baylor teams well. It's not a game that Baylor ever just really blows them out of the water, even though they dominated, in Rule's final year. But that still wasn't like a blowout.
24-10.
Yeah, it wasn't a blow. They just controlled the game, but it wasn't a blowout by any means. So that rarely ever happens. I think it's going to be, a relatively close game. I do think Baylor can run the football on them. And so that should be, right up their alley. It'll be key on whether or not they're able to hit some of those passes that keep that offense running. I mean, that will really be it. R.J. Sneed, Tyquan Thornton, Drew Estrada, are they able to keep moving the chains and keep being enough of a presence that, UT can't just load up to stop Abram Smith and Treston Ebner. I mean, that's every week's game plan. But, yeah, those receivers are going to be really important. I don't have any questions about the running backs. I think they can do their thing. But you need the receivers to help that offense keep its flow. And defensively, it's going to be a great challenge. I mean, Sarkisian's had 2 weeks to prepare, but so is Ron Roberts and Dave Aranda.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be fascinating. That particular matchup, Sark's offense versus Aranda and Roberts' defense, on what they throw at each other, what's different. And Aranda talked a lot really about the offense, about breaking tendencies. So I'm curious to see what little wrinkles or what differences we see. And I'm sure Texas has done the same thing with their self-scouting over the last couple weeks. So really intriguing matchup for a lot of different reasons. But, yeah, the key is going to be, can they contain Bijan to some extent? And what does Casey Thompson do through the air? Do they give up the big plays to Xavier Worthy or to Joshua Moore or to somebody who has yet to emerge? Or are they able to just kind of focus in on Bijan? Because if they can do that, then as good as he is, I like the Baylor defense.
I would rather slow down Bijan Robinson from going off on 150, 190 yards or breaking. I would rather do that. And then on occasion, you might give up something to Worthy or whoever else, like you did against Brigham Young. But the thing is that Baylor does pretty much the same thing. They don't have Bijan Robinson, but Abram Smith and Treston Ebner together is pretty damn impressive. And can Texas stop the run? They've struggled themselves stopping the run, and on occasion giving up big plays as well. I think Gary Bohannon, if he has a clean game, if he has a clean game, is efficient, and he can get away from the pocket on a couple of waggles or bootlegs, if they run the ball well, I think he could end up having a huge game. And I say huge, I'm talking about a very impressive day.
Yeah, and I would say that if you look at Baylor when they've played elite running backs, like Warren had a good game against Oklahoma State. Brees Hall was 27 for 190, and I would expect
they cannot give that up.
I don't think they can do that with Bijan Robinson again. And they got lucky with Iowa State that it didn't burn them because that game kind of nipped at their heels at the very end.
But you know what they did with him? He had some long runs, but they never let him break 60, 70.
That's what they've done all year, really.
Yeah.
And they've given up 50-yard runs, and they stop at the 17-yard line and then force into a field goal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they do. That's what they did against BYU, and that's why they were able to win that game. Because if BYU had actually hit on all those plays, like connected all the way, that's a totally different ball game. Like if Nakua has like 3 touchdowns rather than just the one at the end, and he had broken a couple of, then that's a whole different ball game. So yeah, they got to keep Texas in front of them. Texas wide receiver core is very curious because since Jordan Whittington went down, that was a big blow because you look around and
he's always battling the injuries.
He's always battling injuries, but
talent.
He helped move the chains, and he's a good target for Casey Thompson. And now with him out of the lineup, I mean, it's kind of depleted. You've got Xavier Worthy, but if you look at Worthy, he's so dynamic, he's so electric. I mean, everybody knows the Oklahoma game, but there are some games where he's not nearly as active. And then Joshua Moore, kind of the same thing. So those are your 2 proven receivers, and your third receiver, their third best receiver is Bijan. So that's
very good.
Yeah, it was very good, and you have to watch him out of the backfield, but it's just kind of weird how that Whittington injury changed things. So I'm curious to see if Texas has another guy that's ready to kind of emerge as well.
All right, the text line's still going. The 256 asking about Memphis and the Big 12. Also the 251 on the SEC when he thinks grows to 16 teams and what they should do. We're going to get into all of that. Hey, if you haven't, like us on YouTube, Channel 365 Sports. Also subscribe if you haven't. Spread the word. And those of you who have been watching since day 1, April 6th of 2020, Sikkim 365 Radio, back with more. Plus, we'll then check in with a couple of writers on national games. Wake Forest, how about the Demon Deacons? And, of course, as well, what's happening with Miami, the Hurricanes coming off their win against NC State. The city of Woodway continues with their various fall special events, and including coming up, that's this Saturday, Cops and Kids Halloween Drive-Thru from 5 until 7 o'clock. Information's available on their website, Cops and Kids Halloween Drive. That's a drive-thru from 5 until 7. It's going to be at the Woodway Activity Park. Join the Woodway Public Safety Department and Woodway Family Center and the fun trick-or-treat drive-thru. So if you want to do it and you want to be with your children, your kids, and others as well, you can do that. Cops and Kids Halloween Drive-Thru. That's October 30th. That's Saturday evening from 5 until 7 o'clock. So that's there. Also, if you're looking for a hotel for a future Baylor football game, if you haven't had one now, I don't know. I'm sure there's something. There used to not be very many hotels in Waco, and now you've got many of them, and including, of course, 2 being built right next to us here at our studio. But Woodway has 7 hotels. Don't forget about them as an option if you want to stay somewhere to go to a Baylor football game coming up and or basketball at the Farrell Center downtown to see the Silos, Chip and Joanna, and the Magnolia, and of course even balconies and more. It's the city of Woodway. Go to discoverwoodway.com.
The beautiful, rugged, elegant third-row seat Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock at Allen Samuels. This prestigious Jeep heritage is obvious in the Grand Cherokee L. First responders, we're offering an extra $500 cash for you. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $3,500 or 0% for 72 months going on now. Jeep Adventure Days at Allen Samuels, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey guys, sports betting season is in full force with football season entrenched and the NBA and NHL underway and the Major League Baseball playoffs. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS.com. BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That's BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses like ours at BetUS.com. 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 or a 200% bonus if you use crypto on promo code SICK'EM200. BetUS, known as America's favorite sportsbook. NFL, college football, MLB, UFC, PGA golf, they've got it all at BetUS.com. So go to BetUS.com today and use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That's BetUS.com, promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the Bet US hotline, 254-339-1122.
All right, let's get to a couple of the texts.
Hold on just one. Paul getting funky with the music here.
I know.
Like waiting for that little light, the big ball to be spinning.
Yeah, I do this I do it every day, so sometimes I get bored.
Yeah.
256. What are you hearing what Memphis is not ready to say yes to the Big 12? What exactly is not ready? I think Memphis wants to be a part of the Big 12, but they've gone kind of quiet. And I've heard from some of you who are Memphis fans, even some in the media, yeah, they got rejected. They got jilted again. I don't know if that's the true story. I'm not so sure that Memphis, just at the time when everyone was ready to move to 4, when the Big 12 was ready to pull the trigger to get out of their ditch, for whatever reason, it wasn't quite time. That doesn't mean it won't be when they want to go to Chapter 2. There's also, well, they've been jilted. Okay, I get that. But I don't think Chapter 1 that Memphis was, that's my opinion. I don't know if that's the truth, that they were told you're not a part of Chapter 1. I'm not so sure they could not come to an agreement. Part of what Memphis wanted, and maybe Big 12 said, hey, we have to move on to Chapter 1, get this done, move on, and then we'll worry about whatever happens in the future. And we've mentioned that many times before. Now, Memphis will disagree and probably deny that. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as I see from the person's point of view, is like, what are they supposed to do exactly? And I'd be curious as a fan to know too. Well, I mean, examples you've given previously is, upgrades to the Liberty Bowl and things of that, or assurances that, but I don't know what you have more insight than I do.
When you have teams that you are looking at bringing into your conference, and you want some assurances from them on paper that they're ready. I always ask you this question. Good faith, some signs of good faith, whatever the word is. I don't know if Memphis, and they're starting to do interviews for their new president. That's good. I don't know if something was maybe never showed up, or if they just did not want to sign anything in good faith. But there's a reason why Memphis was not a part of Chapter 1, and it wasn't because the Big 12 doesn't want them. I will tell you right now, they do want Memphis, and it's still there, but again, there's a clock ticking again. It's clicking. So you have to, like, for example, UCF, Cincinnati, Houston were like gushing. Oh, gushing. And we know what Brigham Young was doing. Brigham Young didn't have to wait on any exits or any kind of timeline. Every one of those schools were gushing. And you remember we got the feel from people who covered them, the people who are a part of those schools or whatever else. I think Memphis has got a great fan base. There's no question about that city, in my opinion. But I do think that maybe they're just kind of not, they're
not all in.
They weren't maybe, and I mean 100% in. Not, yeah, we're interested, but we're not ready to commit. Okay.
That's the best way to explain it.
There you go.
Yes.
All right.
And I would say that outgoing and incoming president of a university has a lot to do with that. I mean, that is something that can really slow things down, because you almost don't want to do something until you've talked to the incoming president and said, okay, here's what's going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. What's your input on this? I've also, sometimes I know it's different everywhere, contracts and all that, but same thing with athletic directors, how some places can have an interim athletic director for 18 months, and then Scott Woodward can leave A&M, and Ross Bjork can leave Ole Miss, and then A&M, Ole Miss, and LSU all have new ADs within 3 weeks of each other. Like, it just happens that fast. And so I think some of this interim stuff really slows the gums of the work in college.
USF
athletics.
is going through, I think South Florida is going through a little bit of that right now as well.
Yeah, but if you're this new incoming person who's not been even, I don't know, I'm not following that story, but if you're, inheriting this entire university, it's, realignment on top of that. That's a big decision in your tenure.
Absolutely.
That's like hiring your first football coach, and you're going to be, judged by your hires, and you're going to be judged by those big decisions that you made. So, yeah, I could see where with that uncertainty, and not having somebody locked in, you don't know, if that's something you want to take on full
bore. Do you want to
leave
that in someone else's lap when you walk out the door? Does Memphis know who their next president is? I think they probably do. And why not pick up the phone and talk, or why not meet? But it just seemed like for some reason or another, they didn't want to pull the trigger. I know that the Big 12 gets looked at because they jilted so many teams in 16, and they did, and it was bad. And I think that's why
at the time, so that was a clown show.
Awful. I think that's why you see people like Bob Bowlesby, Oliver Luck, and others who are representing the Big 12 seeing so many campuses around America, not just for what they might be able to bring to Big 12 at some point, but also future relationships and alliances with various conferences other schools join in the end. One quick note on the 10-game conference schedule. We got a break, come back with Wake Forest writer. We were bringing this up yesterday in the 10-game conference schedule. I'm just saying, if the Big 12 was to do this, they have that option. They can do 8, they can do 9, they can do 10, whatever. The only schools right now, the next by 2024, that have rivals on their non-conference schedule, Brigham Young, Utah, and they'll play forever. West Virginia, Pitt is on the schedule in 2024. Iowa State, Iowa, and they should play forever, and no one else has that game that they have to play, because we know Oklahoma and Oklahoma State's up for grabs right now, among some other schools as well. When we come back, Wake Forest, what a story. We're going to discuss them next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com can help you save hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars with an MRI, state-of-the-art technology, the MRI machine. I have been in it, and I have had things looked at. And thank goodness everything was always pretty good. But the state-of-the-art technology with Dr. Rob Maxey, his staff, Al LeBlanc, the Texans specialists, they're amazing. And when you go get an MRI, they will set up the appointment by phone, online, whatever you want. And then when you get there, there won't be this large waiting room with 35 people. And then you got to wait for the loudspeaker, David Smoak or whoever. It's so much simpler. It's shortened down. It's efficient at IdealMRI.com. And here's another thing. They can save you tons of money. $497 every time or less at Ideal MRI. The average MRI is $1,100. They will find out what hurts, where is the pain and why, and send it to whoever doctor you have, and do it with images and more. IdealMRI.com.
Pavers for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $4,000 down, cash or trade. See dealer for details.
Hit the road and save on a reliable pre-owned vehicle from Richard Carr. Savings like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $211 a month, or a 2014 Cadillac CTS sedan for $288 a month. Plus, we pay top dollar for your trade. All pre-owned cars and trucks go through a 172-point inspection. With multiple lenders, we say yes when others say no. Hit the road and save at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions. fast friendships, and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
What a story Wake Forest football has been. There's been a lot of great stories every year in college football. One of them is Wake Forest. Deacons Illustrated, Connor O'Neill joins us now on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Connor, how shocked are you at what they're doing? I know that they're better, and you could think they were going to be better, but what they're doing now?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I would say I'm somewhere between shocked and not. And I mean, for a school like Wake Forest, you don't really expect to be 7-0 and 13th in the rankings, at least from my perspective. But this is a season that it's kind of felt like they were building to this for a few years. They had a shot to kind of be in a similar situation two seasons ago in 2019. You know, they got the 7-1, and that was when the team got their first ever CFP ranking, and then some injuries kind of hit them, or that would have been that would had the makings of a 10 or 11 win season there. So yeah, this is a season to be celebrated like it is an unexpected thing. But yeah, it's not completely out of the blue. It's not like UCF going from winless to undefeated in a matter of a couple years.
Their schedule coming up, and again, the ACC is an absolute unmitigated disaster past them right now. So you have to feel confident if you're Wake Forest about being able to at least close it out and be in the conference championship game. But it is tougher. I mean, Duke this week probably isn't as tough as a matchup, although Army gave them all they wanted last week. But North Carolina, NC State, Clemson, Boston College down the stretch that's the proving ground, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the proving ground. But the thing that is kind of it's shaping up like it hasn't shaped up in the past. I mean, Wake has, for a couple years, had trouble closing out seasons. Week by week, those games at the end of the year seem to be getting easier and easier for looking at it on paper. I mean, Clemson is losing guys left and right. Their offense looks worse and worse every week. North Carolina has just kind of fallen off where everybody thought they would be. Boston College lost their quarterback for the season. At least I think that was a season-ending injury. I don't think that's been official yet, but it sure sounds like it. And NC State, you figured would be Wake's toughest competitor for that ACC Atlantic crown, and they go and drop a game to a bad Miami team last week. So it's, it's still going to be those 4 games are probably going to be 4 of the hardest 6 games on Wake's schedule when you look at the entire thing. But they don't look like the murderer's row that they would have looked at when we looked at the schedule before the season.
Connor, we had the benefit when Art Briles was here at Baylor for a few years to kind of watch every week one of the best offenses in the country and one of the most kind of fascinating offenses in the country. And right now, Wake Forest has got one of the most interesting offenses in the country. Last week against Army, averaging less than 2 minutes per touchdown drive, scoring 10 touchdowns and hanging 70. What they do is unique compared to a lot of other schools out there. What's it been like to see the development of this offense, and what's it like to watch on a weekly basis the way that they operate?
It's pretty incredible. It hasn't been the same offense for all 8 seasons that Dave Clawson has been in Winston-Salem. The slow mesh really didn't start to show itself until, year 3 and year 4. And that was when they had an experienced quarterback with John Walford running it. And by the end of the 2017 season, it was surgical. And that's kind of what we're seeing with Sam Hartman. We're kind of seeing history repeat itself a little bit. Now, their quarterback trajectories were not the same. John Walford was thrown in there as a freshman and basically spent 2 years running for his life. But it's an offense that it puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback to read. And when you have an experienced 4-year starter at quarterback like Sam Hartman is, then you're going to have the upper hand on a lot of college defenses.
We have a chat room, Connor, that we have while the show is on YouTube, and this is from Keelani. Wake plays a unique offense, starts off like a usual spread, and then morphs into something insane delayed run/up-tempo passing, which is kind of what, Craig, you alluded to. It's the most unique thing I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, it's a slow mesh. The mesh point in an option offense is usually about half a second. And in Wake's offense, some of them are half a second, but some of them can take 1 second, 2 seconds. You can even get to 3 seconds on the quarterback just riding the mesh point up to the line of scrimmage. And then at the end of that mesh point, he can pull and throw a slant, throw a go route, throw a skinny post. It is option football. Dave Clawson had some funny quotes last week, basically saying that they run the triple option. They just run it with sexier formation.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, not every, but most of Wake's offensive plays have 3 options to them. It's either a quarterback run, a handoff to the running back, or a pass. And it's triple option football. It's just not the triple option football you think of when you see a bunch formation and some slot backs coming in motion and a possible fullback dive or quarterback keeper, that kind of thing.
Is there any concern that Dave Clawson could, be up for some other jobs given the job he's done at Wake Forest? He is really a perfect fit there.
Yeah, anytime you have a season like this and a season where, you kind of extrapolate it out to what the rest of the season is going to look like, you figure somebody like that is going to get attention from other schools. The thing about it is Dave really is a perfect fit at Wake Forest. He's always been, other than his one season at Tennessee as the offensive coordinator, he's always been a guy who's been at a small academic private university. It was Richmond, it was Bowling Green, it was Wake Forest. Back before Richmond, it was Fordham. So, and he's a program builder. He's not the guy who's going to come in and win you 9 or 10 games with somebody else's players. He's going to build it from the ground up, and that has worked for him. And it's a proven system that he's got. But he's not going to be the guy that gets hired at say Texas Tech, even since they have an opening right now. He's not going to be the guy that's hired there and comes in and immediately wins. He's going to want to build it from the ground up. And there are a lot of places in college football where they don't let you go 3-9 in your first 2 seasons. That's Wake Forest went 3-9 in their first 2 seasons, and Dave will joke about how their offense was one of the worst offenses in the country. But he was given a pretty long leash, and he was able to build things from there, and that's how they've been to 5 straight bowl games, and the patience has been rewarded.
Connor, as you mentioned earlier, winning 7 games, I guess the fact that they're undefeated right now makes it a big deal, but they've won 7 games on a regular basis. I mean, last year was kind of the outlier because of COVID, but for like about 5 consecutive years outside of 2020, they've won 7 or 8 games. They're pretty much guaranteed, given the schedule, to surpass that. But what is kind of the ceiling that Wake Forest fans or media are talking about right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think because they're undefeated, you can't not talk about a CFP berth, right?
Sure.
I mean, you're the only undefeated ACC team. The ACC has never been left out in the cold of the CFP. I mean, I think off the top of my head, I think them and the SEC are the only 2 conferences that can say they've always had at least 1 representative in there. And in the past couple years, the ACC got to claim Notre Dame last year. The ACC had 2 representatives in the CFP. So as long as they're undefeated, you have to talk about that as a ceiling. You have to talk about the fact that, Wake Forest is probably going to be favored in at least 4 of their last 5 games. The one that they might not be is Clemson. And Clemson, you could make the argument, is maybe the 2nd or 3rd hardest team that Wake is going to play for the rest of the season, behind UNC and behind NC State. So, then you're looking at a ACC championship game in Charlotte against Pitt, as long as Wake can continue to run the table. And that would be a high-scoring shootout, and who knows who would win. I mean, if you're looking at a 13-0 ACC team, I don't know how that team gets left out of the CFP. Now, that's a long way to go, and that's obviously not to hit you with the cliche of all the coaches, with it's a 1-week season and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, until they drop one, which, I have some reservations. I don't know still how realistic it is to expect them to close it out and be 13-0, but until they drop one, I think you have to talk about it like that.
I think you're right. There's no question about it. But we got to go, and I know you do as well, Connor. We appreciate it. One of the things we love about Wake Forest is I know it didn't end well at the end of his time there, but Jim Grove is one of the great special people of all time. He came over, of course, as you know, during Baylor's transition in 2016. We got to know him. We appreciated him a great deal.
Yeah, you will never find anybody in Winston-Salem that has a bad thing to say about Jim Grove.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great dude.
Or Waco, basically, or anywhere else he's been. He is a guy I think they ought to put something up somewhere.
Well, it's impressive because of Grove and Clausen. They've only had 2 head coaches since 20 years. Yeah, that's pretty good in today's landscape.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot, Connor. Congratulations. I know, not to you, you're not playing the games, but on what's going on with Wake Forest. Has to be fun to cover what they're doing. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, guys.
Connor O'Neill. Deacons, Illustrated, covering Wake Forest.
Yeah, if you haven't watched much Wake Forest, definitely watch their offense. It's really fun and unique, and they are sitting in a weird position right now because it's like get excited, but you're also like cautiously optimistic at the same time. Which is the best kind of nerves to have when you're at this point in the season. But yeah, I mean, for Wake, they're almost assuredly going to pass that kind of barrier that they've had the last 5 years or so, and who knows? I mean, the ACC, as we mentioned, is way down. They had North Carolina and Clemson down this stretch. At the beginning of the year, how tough did that look?
I know.
How tough does that look now? It's still tough, but not unbeatable.
Kalani, I hope I'm saying your name right. I did not see the super chat, $5. Ask him and I'll text him. If you could choose one national championship the next 20 years, would you want it in basketball or football at Wake Forest? I will text him that and get his answer, and I'll send it back to you.
I bet you Wake Forest people would say anything.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, Kobe Price covers the University of Miami Hurricanes, beat North Carolina State. Charleston Rambo from Cedar Hill High School won the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award weekly honor this week. That's next on Sikkim 365 Radio. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and maybe you were maybe used to be. And what that means, as you get older, no matter what, 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Part of father time, part of growing older, part of maybe getting up into your 30s and especially in your 40s or more. 2 out of 3 is fine. But 1 out of 3 men have symptomatic issues that include sex drive, problems there, ED, or you can't sleep well. You lost your energy. You're lethargic. So Dr. Kent Petty, go to pettycliniclowt.com. Tell them I sent you. Email or phone call. It's on their site. And tell them I sent you. They'll set you up to get your lab work, get the results, your testosterone levels, and if they're too low, Dr. Kent Petty can put you in a program that will increase your testosterone levels, and you can get back to being the man you used to be and who you want to be and who you need to be. It's pettycliniclowt.com.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads. Crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
A sagging rear end. It's ugly, it's embarrassing, and it's a sign you haven't been taking care of things. Hey, it's Jay from Pickup Outfitters, and we know you've seen it. A truck pulling an RV, a boat, or a big trailer, and the back end of the truck is lower than the front. In the industry, we call it a floppy jalopy, a scooty booty, or most commonly, badonkadonk down. It's not just an eyesore. When a truck's rear end is sagging, it can be dangerous because it affects the handling of the truck and can make driving unsafe. But there is a fix to this unsafe and unsightly condition. Take your truck to Pickup Outfitters for a little rear end suspension upgrade like Super Springs, Sumo Springs, or even an airbag suspension kit. Your truck will be safer, handle better, and most importantly, it will look better. People will start noticing the improvement to your rear end right away. And isn't that what it's all about? Get your rear suspension upgrade from the pros at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or check us out on the web at createacommotion.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Van Dyke on the slant. Rambo! Touchdown! Back and forth we go.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
From Wake Forest of the ACC to Miami, the Hurricanes with a win against top 20 North Carolina State. Charleston Rambo gets some honors, including the one that Craig is very much a part of, as is his mother and I as well, and that's the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award for his performance in that game. Kobe Price of the South Florida Sun Sentinel joins us, covers the Hurricanes. Kobe, how big was that? That program needed a lift. How big was that win?
It was a big one. It was an absolutely big one. You know, I think they had they had lost the last 6 games to FBS programs heading into that NC State win. So that was much needed, you know, just to both end that streak, but also, you know, get some positivity into the locker room after having such a tough start to the year.
Kobe, Manny Diaz is in, you know, all kind of hot water with his job and everything. Do you think that he needs to win the majority of the rest of them going out, or are they still maybe a year away from looking at that? Because he hasn't been there very long.
No, he hasn't. This is the middle of his 3rd year. But to directly answer your question, I do think he needs to win the majority of the games for the rest of the 2021 season. The athletic director here, Blake James, he spoke with media, you know, certain media members before the NC State game, and he basically laid it out saying that, you know, Manny knows this, but we need to win more games. The football team needs to win more games. And, you know, kind of from my end, just looking at it, you know, the athletic director said something like that, knowing, you know, Manny is on the hot seat. You know, there was supposed to be, you know, another step taken this year, but that step was not taken. And, you know, maybe even if they don't get the success they have, maybe Manny is allowed to come back. Maybe they do bring him back and he's on a, you know, that seat's even higher. He's on a shorter lease and going into next year. But I do think how this season finishes will ultimately determine whether Manny does come back for 2022 or not.
Kobe, how much does the fact that the AAC is so down, ACC is so down this year, Clemson obviously not in the typical mix, how much does that add to maybe frustration surrounding the Hurricanes' performance thus far, a missed opportunity of sorts, if you will?
I mean, I would imagine it's a significant amount. I mean, if you just focus on the Coastal Division alone, I mean, the Coastal Division's always up for grabs no matter what year it is. You know, right now Pittsburgh is on top, but, you know, 2 years ago Virginia was on top, and and that's saying that UNC and Miami were supposed to be the 2 teams, you know, on top. And then, you know, you look at ACC as a whole, you know, who would have thought Wake Forest would be the team, you know, the only, I guess, the highest ranked team in the entire conference. Obviously, you mentioned Clemson, you know, but they still find a way to beat NC State. So, yeah, it adds to the frustration because this feels like a year in which any team could truly grab it. And Miami, up to this point, hasn't shown that they're going to be the team who will take the ACC crown this year.
How much the injury to De'Aaron King, how much has that been like the death knell in a lot of ways?
It doesn't help matters at all. I mean, De'Aaron King, at least in my view, he covered up so many holes that the team had last year, and even a few of them to start the year. But even when he was at quarterback, you know, the team struggled in certain areas. The holes that he was able to cover last year, you know, he wasn't able to cover in the same way. He had a slow start to the year. So the team, in a way, almost was a little bit more exposed. Their flaws were exposed, even when he was on the field. And it took them a minute, and I still think it's taking them a little minute to, you know, recover from losing, let's be honest, their best player over the last, season and a half. However, they seem to be finding their footing. They seem to be finding a way, not just by, you know, with Tyler Van Dyke's play, but by figuring out which guys do need to be playing and which guys maybe should not be having a prominent role on this team.
Kobe, how much of Miami's problems are not really Manny Diaz at all? It's the fact that they're kind of living off of their past name. They really could use a stadium on campus, a president, athletic director, and a head coach, all with one clear vision and mission, which they haven't had, regardless of who the head football coach is, for quite some time. I mean, right now they're playing in an NFL stadium that they can possibly hope to fill or have a real home field advantage in, and that's not good for anybody, regardless, not if you were one of the best teams of the 80s, 90s, and early aughts.
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't help matters at all that, when people think of Miami, people think of the glory years. But, those glory years have not been here, well over 20 years. So it doesn't help matters that you have all these outside factors, the external factors, affecting the team, affecting how the team is viewed. And, that synergy, that alignment, that does matter. And it matters in terms of getting the program back to where it needs to be. But I'm not saying that Manny's blameless in all of this, or Manny and the coaching staff isn't blamed for all of this, because too often this year we've seen, errors or slow starts that you can't attribute directly to coaching, to not being, seemingly not being as prepared as it could be. So while there are things, outside of Manny that's certainly affecting the program at large, there are things that I feel like, and I think he would agree with, him as the coaching staff, but also the players on the team could do better, even with all the other outside factors going against them.
Well, Kobe, since we keep going back to the coaching thing, I might as well ask you now, who are some names that, and I want to ask you about something else as well in regards to the team, but who are some names that you would, identify as some top ones being discussed amongst the fans, amongst the media, at least when it comes to a potential opening sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's still the question about whether this is Manny's last year, if Manny will come back, but a big name that, whether it's media, fans, et cetera, that the name that he's getting floated around here is Mario Cristobal. A native down here, grew up down here, played down here, coached down here for a little bit. And obviously, you have the success he's had at Oregon with recruiting and just also the actual program itself and how they perform. That's been a name that fans down here are just, it's the name. If he's the guy that fans are really coveting. Obviously, there's so many hoops and so much would have to happen for that to even come to fruition. But that is the name that, at least down here, people are really looking at.
I'm curious, Kobe, that because when Miami was good and great, they were great, and then you always could look at the sidelines and see why they were great for so long with all the names and personalities. Do they still have those type of players and celebrities showing up on the sideline during home games?
For home games, at least from my view, I haven't noticed it as much. Obviously, you do have one of the greatest players in the history of the program, Ed Reed, on staff. You can see him at games, all the time, even away games. But from the celebrity standpoint, at least from my view, I haven't seen it as frequently as maybe possibly the heyday of the program.
So, Miami has been dealt more than a few blows as far as injuries go, and Bubba Bolden, big-time safety, is the latest one. That leaves them pretty inexperienced, right, at the safety spot. And, given who you're looking at coming up here, how much of a concern is the Bubba Bolden injury?
It's a concern, and even with Bubba not playing to the level that, he wanted to, was expected to this year, still a concern. You're going to likely have two true freshmen in Cam Kitchens and James Williams starting at safety, going against, a guy who, in Kenny Pickett, who, last time I checked, he had the fourth best odds to win the Heisman Trophy, and he just had a spectacular year, through October. So it is a concern. It's a concern from a communication standpoint, because even when Bubba wasn't playing well, wasn't tackling well, he was still able to communicate and get guys the position they needed to be in. So it absolutely is a concern. That being said, James and Cam have impressed, at a level that even coming into the year, the most optimistic fan or analyst may not have expected, immediately at least. So I don't question so much their ability to, do their jobs. It's just, even if they do their jobs well, this is still a guy who's just balling out throughout the year. So how much impact will it have?
Yeah, it's a place with so much amazing history, but there's a lot of those around the country. You see what Texas is going through, what Nebraska is going through, what Tennessee is going through, what Miami is going through, what Florida State is going through. It's amazing, some of the elite names the last 30, 40 years, and they have struggled a lot, most of them, at least for the last 5 or 6 years, if not longer. Thank you, Kobe. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it having me on. Thank you.
Kobe Price of the South Florida Sun Sentinel covers the Miami Hurricanes. We appreciate his time. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's just kind of a shame that, for Miami and certain other schools, it's just going to all be about their coaches because of the uncertainty there. But, that's a big game against Pitt. I mean, they have a tough test with Kenny Pickett, man. He is just throwing it all over. You got 2 freshman safeties now, and like you said, like they've done well, but still that's got to be highly concerning. And just even if you had Bubba Bolden, you had everybody. I mean, playing Pickett and the way the Panthers are rolling right now, it's going to be tough. So, yeah, I mean, they're obviously not going to be favorites in this game, so there's another loss. How much weight does that add to the whole Manny Diaz and future there in Miami? Do they have any indication that Mario Cristobal would be interested? Because if they did, that would make this whole process go along a lot quicker. If he's not, then that complicates things a bit. But
if you're Mario Cristobal and you can take a USC or LSU job, if that's opened up for you,
unless you want Miami, though,
unless you really wanted Miami, and if I'm Mario Cristobal and taking Miami, I'm telling them, look, I'm taking this. Being, what Art Browse did here and say, you're going to build a stadium on campus. You're going to do these things for me, and we're going to have synergy, from the top to the bottom between the president, AD, and me, because I'm not stepping into this pretending it's 1991 anymore, because it's not. And they've got to get back to that, because it's hard. Usually even the Orange Bowl, which was in a terrible neighborhood in Miami, but if you brought a recruit into the Orange Bowl when they were playing West Virginia or Nebraska or Florida State or whoever they did back in the day where they're independent in the Big East or wherever they were, man, that place rocked. It rocked. It was electric. And then you move into the Dolphin Stadium, which has had 11 names, since they moved there. But you move in there and, it's not the same.
When we come back, Texas and Baylor coming up on Saturday. Kirk Bowles, Austin American Statesman, trying to. What did Josh Thompson say, and does that thing really matter? I've seen some promo videos or hype videos from Baylor people that have put those up with what he said about the Baylor fan base. But we'll see exactly what was said. Kirk Bowles next on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. As we've been telling you now, and many dealerships have probably been telling you for a while now, inventory as far as new cars and trucks has been limited. Computer chip shortages have had a massive effect on dealerships across the country, but General Motors has announced recently that they'll be restarting production and release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. So cars and trucks are on their way, and now is the time to contact Richard Carr and get your name on a new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac as they are being shipped. You can drive a new car or truck sooner when you get on Richard Carr's Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list, and you get your car or truck first as they arrive. You're looking for a pickup? Well, check out the power and strength combined with the refinement and luxury that make GMC Sierras the best truck on the road. If you're looking for a roomy SUV, well, check out the lineup of Buick SUVs. You got size, versatility, and a variety of options to fit every lifestyle. Or maybe you want some sophistication, some power, all combined into one. Well, check out the Cadillac XT6 or the Cadillac Escalade. Cars and trucks are coming, so get your name on that Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list today and get your vehicle before anyone else. And if you're looking to save and drive today rather than waiting on a new model, Richard Carr is loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. Each goes through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot. And Richard Carr loves to say yes when dozens of other lenders say no. 100% credit approval is always the goal. For those in Central Texas, Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership, so give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Richard Carr Motors, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months and have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. Thank you, Genco. And don't forget, your vote counts. Vote today for your local school to win $1,500 with Genco's School Spirit Competition. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We will hear from Kirk Bowles, Austin American Statesman, momentarily. A couple of Big 12 notes. Drew Davison, there was a lot of drama today on whether Zach Evans had dropped all his connections to TCU on his Twitter feed. I don't know who wants to track all that stuff down, but Drew Davison saying that he was at practice on Tuesday and was told all is good. Whether that's true or not, we'll see.
Well, there was apparently a report out there that was saying that he was not on the team, and that was wrong. So they were just clarifying
just like
that.
Spencer Rattler had left the team and cleared out his locker. And then also Mike Rose, the All-American linebacker at Iowa State, John Heacock, the defensive coordinator with the Cyclones, saying he was practicing, and that's great news for Iowa State. We're now joined by Kirk Bowles of the Austin American Statesman, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. So I have been told, Kirk, that you were actually front and center with the Josh Thompson, whatever Baylor crowd ranking was. What really happened there?
Shocker, right? Well, I try to ask probing questions to try to get some thoughtful answers instead of asking him if you're excited about playing Baylor Saturday. I thought, well, they haven't played that well on the road this year. You know, they got killed by Arkansas, end up losing the neutral site in the Cotton Bowl to Oklahoma, and they beat TCU in Fort Worth, but gave up a 99-yard drive late and had to hold on to win. So in that vein, Smokey, I asked Josh, I said, well, how would you rate Baylor as far as hostile place to play, on with 10 being the toughest? And he thought for 10 seconds, 5 seconds, he deliberated, it seemed to me, and said, I'd say about a 3. And I said, okay, just a 3, why? And then I got cut off, didn't get to ask a follow-up question. They came back to me later during the Zoom call, and I asked him to clarify it, and he was kind of saying, well, everybody gets fired up to play us, and, Iowa State's probably the toughest place to say, but, he didn't say top 3 then. And then after the Zoom press conference was over, UT reached out to me and said that Josh was confused by the question, and I said, hey, I'm not trying to trap the guy. I just wanted an honest response. And if he wants to clarify, by all means clarify, which he did. He said he meant to say they were in the top 3 and how loud and energetic and energized the Bader fans are. So that's kind of the sum total of the whole thing, and people can decide what is really the truth.
Well, Kirk, he'll get a good chance to see if that comment worked on firing up the Baylor fans or not.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, we in the media, we get accused all the time of gotcha questions, but I didn't consider that a gotcha question. I thought it was, fairly innocent. I just figured he'd give me they get really loud, they really support their team, and I was surprised when he said about a 3. So whatever Josh meant, I'm sure he'll get a warm reception at McLean Stadium.
So, Kirk, 4-3 now for the Longhorns, coming off of the open week. They're 2-2 in the Big 12. So, although kind of in the second pack behind, Baylor, Iowa State, and the Oklahoma schools, they're still in the mix and would definitely be with a win this weekend. But 2 straight losses and then the open week. Where's kind of the feeling right now as far as this Texas football program goes at 4-3?
I would guess a sense of urgency, first of all, and then just a sense of desperation, because to me it's very clear their season's on the line. You go 4-4 through 8 games and you're a 500 team, you're looking at a Texas Bowl or something like that. So as you said, they're still, right behind that cluster of teams with 2 losses in the league. So they can control some of their destiny. They probably have to win out, because they still have to play, Iowa State as obviously as Baylor, and go to West Virginia and the 2 Kansas schools. So they may control part of their destiny, maybe not all of it, but I just got to believe they're going to play, give a complete effort. I'm not saying they melted in against OU and OSU, but those fourth quarters and second halves were dreadful. And why they turned out the way they did is anybody's guess. Texas is, operating on the premise it's all mental, and they just kind of lose their focus. Well, I don't know if that's a cop-out or not, but I think it's at least half physical.
Yeah, and Kirk, I saw some of what Coach Sarkisian said about the psyche and kind of working on that, and that's a lot of that is what Coach is saying. He even admitted that as well. I still don't know how they melted down that game with Oklahoma. That is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk, you've seen a billion, or I don't want to say a billion, but you've seen a lot of Red River. Yeah. You've seen a lot of Red River games. Where was that one as far as just, the calamity and craziness of it for you?
It may have been number 1 as far as just chaotic, crazy, wild, shifts in momentum, first half to second half. I don't know if I've ever really seen anything quite like it. I mean, Texas did a little bit of that the year before, you remember, when Sam Ehlinger led them back. They were down, I guess it was 31-17 late in the third quarter, and Ehlinger, brought them back and tied the game, and then they ended up losing to Oklahoma in overtimes. But this one, oh my God, this is comeback on steroids. And, I mean, you're not supposed to blow, a double-digit lead to your arch rival when you have it late in the third quarter. And it looks like they just fell apart. And I think part of it, guys, I don't know how many difference makers they have on their team. I think Texas is a good football team because I think both of you might agree they probably should have beaten Oklahoma, and maybe Oklahoma State as well, if not for a pick 6. But you can't blow a lead like that. And I think that left some scars and probably some self-doubt in the minds of some of the players.
Yeah, you imagine if they can finish where they would be. My God, with the hype machine in Austin with UT, it would be hard to almost handle. How you've seen Ricky Williams, Earl Campbell. You even saw those before them, Roosevelt Leaks, because you and I are about the same age. And then you've seen them all. Where is Bijan Robinson compared to some of the greats, in your opinion, even though he has still a long way to go?
Well, I've always said Earl Campbell is probably the best Texas Longhorn football player I ever saw, because he truly was a man among boys. And, you and I are on the Earl Campbell, Tyler Rose Player of the Week committee, and that's something we enjoy, consider it a privilege to do. So, the bar starts at Earl. And like you said, Ricky Williams won a Heisman in '98, and he had that power and speed. I don't know if you would say Bijan Robinson's Ricky Williams light. He's so smooth, guys. He can just turn on a dime. He has a way of maneuvering his body. He doesn't get hit hard, head on very much, and he can, do that jump stop and one cut and he's gone. So he doesn't get trapped for negative yardage very often. He's a great receiver. He's got several touchdown passes as a receiver. In fact, he scored all 3 of their touchdowns against Oklahoma State 2 weeks ago. So I think he's a special running back. And you talk about a humble kid, he mentions God in every press conference. He's very religious, devoutly so, and just humble, and you won't get him to brag on himself at all. So I think he's a special player and special person.
Yeah, I felt for last year that Tom Herman, had this Lamborghini in his garage, and he just wanted to rub it with a diaper. That's all.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
he didn't.
Yeah, it made no sense. It
Yeah.
made no sense to any of us.
Yeah. As far as the quarterback situation goes, Kirk, how confident do you think that Steve Sarkisian is in that long term? I know that Casey Thompson's done a fairly good job since he took back over the starting role, but the end of the Oklahoma game, the end of the Oklahoma State game, was a little shakier than he had been in previous games. Is the quarterback of the future on their roster right now, or is that something that Steve Sarkisian is probably going to maybe tread water on until he really knows?
I think he is right now. Hudson Card is much ballyhooed. Georgia was going to kill to get him. They wanted him so bad. And, Charles Wright's an Austin High local quarterback who's a true freshman. I've got a lot of confidence in Casey Thompson. I wouldn't say he's been erratic. He's had some moments where he wasn't on the top of his game, like TCU. I think he threw 142 yards, only had 12 completions, I believe it was. But, then he turns around in the biggest game of the year and has 5 touchdowns, almost 400 yards against Oklahoma. And then he didn't play so well in the second half. I don't know if you saw that game, but he threw this pick 6 against Oklahoma State. To me, biggest play of the year. They're up 17-3 late in the second quarter. They're moving in for either a touchdown or field goal. So they could go up 20-3 or even 24-3, but a pick 6 makes it 17-10. Just changed everything about that game. And, he bruised his thumb a little bit against Oklahoma. So we were wondering if, maybe he didn't quite have the zip on the ball against Oklahoma State. But I think he's a very good quarterback. I think we've kind of underrated him his whole career. He's a film geek, just lives in the film room. He can break down Bader's defense, before your very eyes very easily. So he's a cerebral guy. And he's not really a running threat, but he can move in the pocket. But I don't know. I've got a lot of faith in him. He turned out a whole lot better than I thought he would up to this point.
Well, Kirk, I think he's going to play a big role this weekend because we know Texas loves to, do what they can with Bijan and hit on some big plays to the likes of an Xavier Worthy or a Joshua Moore. I was curious your thoughts on just the Texas attack this weekend and what you think they can do through the air, because if there is a question mark about this Baylor defense, it is in that back end and in that secondary. I know that Jordan Whittington loss hurt them, but besides Worthy and Moore and then Bijan in the passing game, kind of where does the Longhorns wide receiver core stand?
Well, it's very unstable, and even Sarkisian on Monday talked about how inconsistent it is. And Xavier Worthy has become the alpha dog, a true freshman. He had committed to Michigan and from California kid, and Sarkisian was recruiting him for Alabama when he was still the OC there. So this kid's special. I'm telling you, he's very slender. He's very slightly built, but he can run like a deer, and he can go up and get it. And you talk about confidence. Sometimes too much confidence. He ran out that kickoff out of the end zone and fumbled to Oklahoma, which was a huge turnover, late in that game. But he doesn't have any fear at all. I mean, in that game, he had I think it was 261 yards, and 2 touchdowns against Oklahoma. So he's a confident guy. Now, Joshua Moore has disappeared a little bit. Hasn't had near the year that he had last year. And you mentioned Jordan Whittington's loss. broken clavicle. That's a big time loss. They miss him, and they haven't really used the tight ends as much as Sarkisian spent the whole offseason talking about. They've got several good tight ends. Maybe they're saving them for Saturday or not, but I thought we were going to see more use out of them. And another guy they got is Keelan Robinson, the running back from Alabama who transferred. He's a blur. He may be, he or Deshaun Jameson, the fastest two on the team, and they haven't really used him. He caught one pass for 25 yards early against Oklahoma State, and then he had one carry for 1 yard, and that's it. So I'm not sure why they didn't use him more, but I really thought the offense would show more than they have, to be honest with you guys. But part of that is a byproduct of the offensive line just not being that good.
Yeah, I tell you what, we had Sarkisian on during Big 12 Media Days. Really like him. I do. I like him quite a bit, and I wish him the best of luck. We might see with the guys you mentioned, with Jameson and also with Ebner, someone might go 85 or 100 with those two because they're both, and I know Worthy could as well, but my goodness, in the kick return or punt return game, that could get interesting on Saturday as well.
Yeah, it really could. Deshaun Jameson's kind of been on the verge of breaking a couple. He broke one. I guess it was Louisiana, got called back. But, yeah, I keep waiting for him to do what. And Ebner, I'm on the All-American committee, and, we got him on there last year. Ebner's what, a ninth-year senior?
Yeah, basically.
No, he's a ninth-year senior plus the COVID year. He's actually been there 10 years. Yeah, 10. Yeah.
It seemed like it. It seemed like it. And Abram Smith, boy, you got a guy who's played linebacker and now as a running back. I like that kind of toughness. So I don't know. I don't see too many weaknesses, in this Baylor team. I think, it's probably the most complete team, in the Big 12. I mean, top 20 scoring offense and defense, one of only 4 Power 5 teams, and, no penalties against BYU. I've never heard of that, especially with a Big 12 or officiating crew. Maybe they were independent or BYU brought them, but that was a stunner.
What would be more of a conspiracy is if they played against Texas and Oklahoma and had no penalties. That would yeah. Kirk, one more thing. I think Bryce Cherry said this in the press conference with Dave Aranda. This is the 111th meeting, Baylor and Texas, and could be the last time they ever play in Waco. Now, I know that Floyd Casey at times was not very full, but the last 10 or 12 years, Baylor's been pretty good other than a couple of hiccups. Yeah, does that factor into anything yet at all?
You mean as far as playing each other in the future?
Yeah, they're not going to most likely. Mac Rhodes just said, "Hey, listen, we're not against anything because they didn't want to get into the egomaniac of A&M and Texas. Screw you, we're not playing. It's up to us, not you." But it could be the last time they play in Waco at McLean Stadium. Of course, forever it was Floyd Casey as well.
I mean, Smokey, that's a possibility. I don't think any of us think Texas know you're going to be there through 24-25 school year, do we? I mean, that seems untenable. I mean, it's awkward, and then there's awkward times a million, if they stay that long. So it might be their last trip to McLean. I hope not, and I think it just makes so much economic sense for both sides, for Texas to play Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, and kind of keep those rivalries alive. And, your fans can go to Baylor or go to Fort Worth and places like that where if you have Alabama coming in and LSU coming in, tickets are going to be hard to get, I would think. So I think it makes a lot of sense to kind of keep, playing these schools. And I don't know, to me, it's kind of sad that we're seeing the end of the Big 12. I just get so many friends like you guys and so many relationships built up over the years. So, but money talks, as we all know. So if this is the last time, I think Josh Thompson and all of us should just savor it.
Kirk, I got a couple more questions for you. One of those being, what has it been like? Have you sensed an extra hostility so far in Big 12 play, any more than the normal hostility that Texas gets when they hit the road?
I can't say that I have. I mean, it's out there. I think maybe it's more with administrators like, Bob Bowlesby. I mean, Bob wasn't even at the Texas OU game, which was a pretty large game. I think he was in Waco that day.
Yep.
And so, to me, that was kind of a petty move. It's like, hey, Texas and OU, one of the premier games in the nation, game day was there. So, I kind of hate to see stuff like that. But I don't blame anybody, really, because the way Texas and OU snuck out the back door. I really don't blame them for the hurt feelings and stuff. But I don't know. Fans are going to be fans, you know.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of hatred and vitriol and animosity. And I don't know. I'm sure we'll see some good signs Saturday and the rest of the way. So especially when they go to Iowa State and West Virginia.
No doubt. So I think, Sarkisian and his offensive mind versus Aranda and Ron Roberts and their defensive minds is going to be a fascinating clash, especially because they both had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. So I think that will be really interesting. But then on the flip side, you've got two highly touted coordinators, Jeff Grimes and the Baylor offense. We've seen what he's done to turn them around. What have you made of Pete Kwiatkowski's defense? I know there's been some flashes of good things. There's also been some flashes of not so good things. Where do you kind of see them and view them right now going into this game?
Very disappointing, I would say. I wouldn't give him real high marks right now. I mean, I think the latest stats, I think they're 106th in total defense, giving up over 430 yards a game. And against the run, they're even worse. I think they're like 114 or 115 against the run. So they're not getting it done. And they seem to tackle so much better until the last 2 weeks. And I don't know if that's fatigue, especially in the fourth quarter when conditioning is a factor. It's so hard to tell that. But, Sarkisian has said, yeah, we weren't in the right gaps and that sort of thing. Well, when you get tired, you don't think as quickly, you don't react as quickly, and, nothing goes as well. But, Pete Kwiatkowski, we don't get to interview him. We interviewed him in the summer, and then that was it. So we don't get to talk to him each week. And he's a guy that keeps everything in front of him. He doesn't want to give up an 80-yard pass. But that might play right into Bader's hands because Bader's so workmanlike and methodical, they'll just keep the ball and just drive on down the field. So the other thing I've noticed, hasn't Bader scored on their first 3 drives in 2 different games this year?
Yeah.
Against, Iowa State and either West Virginia or BYU.
Yep.
So Sarkisian better note that and better come out firing because, you get behind, 14-0 or even worse with a team that's lost 2 in a row and starting to doubt itself. That could be a recipe for disaster.
And Aranda said the same thing about Texas because of their fast starts and how they've jumped on teams. So, it's going to be a fun game, interesting game with a lot of storylines.
You're right. Texas has been a first-half team. I was kidding on our podcast today that Sark should call it the first half and then the second first half. Just don't even use the word second half. But it's all mental, remember?
Yeah, it's a psyche thing. Kirk, thank you, man. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Kirk Bowles, again, Austin American statesman, covering Texas and had covered the Big 12 and college football in general and all a part of various All-Americans, Heisman, Earl Campbell Award, and much more. Now,
it's good to have him on that committee for the Earl Award. He see his vote cast every week, and he's been doing his thing for a long time. And I can't wait for this game. I just think there's a lot of interesting aspects. There's a boatload of really good players on both rosters, and I'm just looking forward to it. I'm kind of at that point of the week now where I'm just starting to get a little antsy of like, all right, let's get there
So
already.
imagine if you were playing.
Oh, I know.
You don't want to play the game on Wednesday. You got to make sure you're ready to play it at
That's
11
why
o'clock.
I'm sitting here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Baylor fans, Josh Thompson might or might not have called you a 3 out of 10.
I think he called you a 3.
I think he called you a 3.
I think he did.
Yeah.
The onus is on you to be
I was told that all of a sudden that audio was erased.
I actually did see a clip of it.
Because if he didn't mean to say that and he'd been corrected himself, but I heard it might have been deleted.
Well, I heard some type of a clip from it or read some type of a quote. I can't remember now, but I saw it yesterday, and I could see where he was misquoted, especially if another question interrupted that. I could see where that got twisted, and I don't think he was trying to talk trash, but I'm going to pretend that he did. I'm going to pretend that he called you Baylor a 3.
And part of the reason it made it worse is because they did clip it and have tried to do that. And the other thing is, if you've got a school it's kind of accusing itself right now of not having a great atmosphere, and then you kind of say, you know what, they're right about themselves, you don't want to make them self-aware.
Hey, Armstrong, can you go to @Brock_Nolan, NOWLIN 34? He sent this out and tagged us. From, let's see, this is like
I don't think we want to play that.
You don't?
I don't think so. It's like a whole hype video. I mean, unless you think the audience out there, I mean, I don't know how non-Baylor fans are going to really be interested in it, but it's a good video. I retweeted it yesterday.
If you want to watch it, go to @Brock_Nolan, NOWLIN34. He uses some of the audio with Josh Thompson and trying to fire up the Baylor fans. That's
okay, if you want to play, go. I mean, I'm not trying to. I thought you were wanting to play the whole video, not the Josh Thompson part. But yeah, he does. He does have that clip. I thought you were trying to play the whole video, but
you want to do that after the break?
It's
Paul?
right at the beginning of it, I believe.
Yeah, let's do it after the break.
Let's break here.
I don't want to rain on that guy's parade, but Sikkim 365 has their own hype video.
All right, then we'll run that.
Clip,
okay, well then we'll do that.
And it's much shorter.
All right, we'll do that.
Better.
What's next? Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Alan Samuels. Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Ram Power Days, bringing the first truck brand to ever take the top spot overall new vehicle initial quality by J.D. Power. 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. Get up to total values of $6,000 or 2.9% for 72 months plus a $2,000 bonus cash. Think about that. Up to $6,000 in values or 2.9% for 72 months plus a $2,000 in bonus cash. And then also, first responders get an extra $500. Come by their dealership and see why Ram is what it is. Back-to-back-to-back Motor Trend Truck of the Year as well. And then on top of that as well, the beautiful, rugged, elegant third-row seating, the Jeep Grand Cherokee L in stock, prestigious Jeep heritage, obvious in the Grand Cherokee L. First responders, an extra $500 cash for you. 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or limited. Total value is $3,500 or 0% for 72 months. It's going on right now. Cars on the lot. SUVs, trucks, Ram trucks, and of course beautiful sedans as well. And a lot of great pre-owned cars available on the lot. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by. Let's be friends. Ted Teague and staff. 340 east of 84 in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza, great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, here we go, closing out this 4 o'clock hour. So there's a hype video. Sikkim 365. There's some things that we are producing, whether it's on the site, away from the site, the premium part of the site, what we do, the podcast, everything. It's amazing how this has grown. And here's a hype video, I guess, for the game Saturday against Texas.
Where would you rank Baylor and its fans?
About a 3.
Say it was only a 3 is an intimidating place. I assume 10 is the most intimidating.
All right, so that's something that the site put together, and it was part of Josh Thompson. Josh Thompson from Nacogdoches High School, great young man. He said what he said. Then they tried to kind of change that up.
You can see where that gets misconstrued, though. Yeah. He could say they were, like, for all I know, he was saying they were the third. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, they had the number 3 as far as the best crowds. But, hey, use what you can use. And, if you want to take it disrespectfully, then do so and, let it motivate you. I think they've got enough motivation, though, these players. But the fans could certainly use some. So, yeah, he meant what he said.
Now,
and you're not going to be loud on Saturday because you're going to be gone by the end of the third quarter anyway. So,
there you go.
Coaches use whatever they can. Why not fans, too? I mean, Bill Self, who in no way needs to motivate his team anyway to beat anybody, but I'll remember it forever. Baylor rolls in there with a team that has maybe one of the best shots before they had finally won in Lawrence to beat them, and they played some sort of Kansas Valentine love Jayhawk thing. There was a long historical video before. Scott Drew just wanted to take his team off and say, hey, guys, don't let this place get you. Do it like just a last little minute thing, and they couldn't hear him over the volume of the hype video that they were playing. Well, Bill Self turns to his team and goes, look, they're disrespecting you, not watching the historical, the history of basketball video we just did. And it worked because the players came off and said, that really fired us up.
And I think that then the KU, of course, came to the Farrell Center. With Kansas in town, you're going to have a large crowd. A lot of them, and a lot of people in red, white, and blue as well, or blue and red. And there was a long tribute type of thing. That it's gamesmanship, and it's part of what it is. And Josh Thompson might intercept 2 passes. I don't know, but Baylor fans. There are a lot of people that feel that way, though. Yeah, there's been some games when you've been, like, stoked. Or the old words when Craig was out of high school, I started using this at pep rallies when Jennifer was in high school. Crunk, right? That's sometimes you have been. And then there are times when I don't know if you understand what's going on during the game. Being honest, period. But why you leave a game when you're enjoying a victory has never been something I've understood either.
That's something that really has bothered me. And I know – like, I don't want to hear it from anybody because I understand. I've heard all the reasons and all that. But when they're beating BYU, like, it's one thing when they're beating up on Texas Southern and people are gone late. I mean, I get it. It's like 60 billion to nothing, and Texas Southern has no chance of coming back. But when a top 25 BYU team rolls in, who's going to be your future Big 12 conference mate, and they are louder, if not matching your home crowd, and then your home crowd's basically dispersed a few minutes into the fourth quarter, like, the stadium's empty by the time. These guys just beat a freaking top 25 team. They're 7-0, and a third of the stadium is only there to, clap for them as they come off the field. I'm sorry. Like, if you think I'm wrong about, feeling that way, that's fine. But damn, they deserve more than that. They really do. In my opinion, they deserve more than that.
And if you want to complain about all the side dishes to the game, which is the tailgating and the music and the this and that and the other thing, you know how to make Baylor really listen to you? Be there elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder.
Baylor's trying. Baylor is trying to create not many schools are out there like, hey, we'll create an email address for you to give your feedback on. And they've sorted through. They've been on this show multiple times. I mean, they're trying to do the game day thing. But at this point, it's so blatantly obvious that it's not about the music. It's not about the videos. It's not about the in-game MC. It's just that it's whatever it is for Baylor fans. But I asked you guys the other day at that BYU game, I said, was this always like this where they're winning and by the end, like, no one's here anymore?
To enjoy it. Not just the first 2 or 3 quarters,
hey,
but
guys,
to enjoy the moment.
You just beat the hell out of a top 25 team, made them like it. But no one's there.
Here's what's going to happen. You will, and I will, and we will start to get responses from everyone. Fine. There is a checklist of why. I have, this, Paul, beaten my head against the wall over this now for 10 or 12 years, and this is as deep as I'm going to go into it. Yeah. I've never understood why you don't want to be there and enjoy the moment. Now, again, if it's a boring game and it gets out of hand, but if it's someone like a Texas or an Oklahoma, or it's for a Big 12 title or a top 25 team, man, I want to see zero across the board before I walk out.
I have to leave to get back over here at the end of the third quarter. I would like to be the only person I see when I leave.
Dude, I walk outside just to see the atmosphere for a couple minutes at halftime, and the number of people I see walk into the buses at halftime, and it's like, it's a 7-point game. I'm like, what? Where are you going? Like, why even show up in the first place? That's my thing. Like, if you were just coming for 2 quarters, why did you even come? Like, why even bother? I don't know. I mean,
the other day, remember, it was chilly. A little bit, the shade from where we are. No, it got it for me. So I went to the car to go get a long mock turtleneck, whatever it was. I got a longer sleeve shirt, and I was wearing a golf shirt. It was chilly. I walked to my car. There are hundreds and hundreds
of people,
and I'm talking streaming out. It's halftime against the top 25 team, but
it's insane.
But I've learned. We're the ones that are wrong. That you're going to tell us we're wrong.
But it's more or less, it just is what it is. And that's the easiest answer is, like, it doesn't matter who rants about it. It doesn't really matter what Baylor does about it. I mean, I know that there's, like, the big thing is still the hang up about the tailgating situation and how that's going. But, I mean, I can absolutely understand not liking certain aspects, but I found that really hard to swallow the other day with the BYU game, of just seeing people streaming out, and you beat a top 25 team and there's like 100 people left in the crowd. That took me aback a little bit, and it is what it is.
So Donnie, who's a big Oklahoma State fan, they're all going outside the stadium so they can get crunk.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's
Chris,
true. Yeah,
guys, I have a theory on this. I think young people might be going to the games because their friends are there. It seems like the social aspect of being seen there trumps actually being at the game. Now, when they were rolling and winning Big 12 titles and in that Sugar Bowl run 2 years ago, there were some incredible crowds. But it does seem like it is a fight. Now, Baylor has taken some heat from a lot of fans because of certain things that may be on game day. They're trying, not fast enough for some of you. There's a lot of that goes on too. But oh, well. All right, we got to wrap up.
I know. My final thing on it is I understand COVID has also played a bit of a role in just as far as what people do in their lives as far as attending games. They're not by any means the only program that's seen people leave at halftime or whatever. I would just hope that would not be the case this weekend. That's really all I'm asking for. I hope if they win this game this weekend, there's more than 100 people still in the stands to congratulate them on being 8-0.
It might be the last time you play Texas at home ever.
So I'm expecting a great crowd this weekend. I hope they stick around. That's really just my complaint, is just the way it empties out when the game's not even over or whatever. But I understand there's a lot of other factors, and I'm not even trying to get into it. Really.
There are some games that lasted 4.5 hours where I wish I could have left with you, by the way. But back in the days when they were pounding people and it was taking forever. When 817, probably it's not cool to be a Baylor fan. I don't. That's an opinion. We appreciate that. Here's one I want to get this. We got a break. Has Patterson lost the locker room at TCU? What's going on? 5-star running back Zach Evans to the transfer portal. He's not in the transfer portal.
He's not.
There was some drama about social media, who was included on a Twitter feed or whatever. How you track all that down, but I understand Rattler wasn't here, and he wasn't at practice that one day. In fact, we find out Lincoln Riley's the one that said take the day off, but he was leaving, right? He was in the transfer portal. He was cleaning out his locker room. Sometimes be careful what you bite, and it doesn't mean that there may not be some smoke, but it doesn't appear as this is as bad as people say.
We won't know if Gary Patterson's lost the locker room maybe until 5 years after he left, before people say that, because people keep the.
If you lose the locker room, then you get hammered the next 2 or 3, 4 weeks to close out the season.
But I will say this about Gary Patterson: what he has lost is a little bit of his protection outside that locker room.
Yeah, for sure. And that was a very fitting text to come from Fort Worth. We could talk about their crowd issues as well, but I will refrain from that.
Yeah,
maybe Frogs fans just aren't cool. I don't know. But you might not be a Frogs fan. I mean, whatever.
817, if you're a TCU fan and you're taking shots at anybody else's fan base and attendance, you need to go look in the mirror.
Yeah, it's a problem for both.
It has been really bad. When we come back, the 5 o'clock hour, former Baylor quarterback and color analyst for Baylor Radio, JJ Joe at 5:15. Cowboys with John Machota. Interesting about Lyle Collins, who's back, and where he plays next. That's not so much city, but position. That's also coming up on 365 Sports.
BetUS.com. This is the best time of year for sports, which means it's the best time of year for sports betting. Not only are the NFL and college football in full swing, you've got the World Series going on right now. The NHL just started. The NBA just started. College basketball is 2 weeks away from starting. So tons of stuff to bet on. And they've got BetUS.com has action on most every sport around the world. So they've got your game. And if you go to BetUS.com right now, use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That's promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. And it's 125% bonus if you use cash, or 200% if you use crypto. That's SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. And you can sign up to bet all that stuff. They also got online casino, horse tracks, all that stuff at BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're celebrating Ram Power Days, bringing the first truck brand to take the top spot overall in new vehicle initial quality by J.D. Power. With the 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star, you can get total values up to $6,000 or 2.9% for 72 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash. All first responders get an extra $500. Come see why Ram wins great awards year after year. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
We're now joined by J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback, Baylor radio analyst, Sikkim 365 and 365 Sports. J.J., what do you remember about those weeks when you played Texas, when you were there?
Coach Tapp probably can just attest to this, but Smoak, when we played specifically the Aggies and the Longhorns, the fight song, Coach Tapp would play this fight song over the Floyd Casey Stadium speakers the entire week. So Monday, and we used to practice on Monday. So Monday through Thursday, that's all we heard. So by the time we got to the ball game, we hated that song. And imagine for 4 years hearing that during Texas week. So that's what I remember, Smoak. We had a pretty good record when I was there against UT, but I remember more than anything the practices leading up to the game.
He was always doing something.
Had you mad at the band?
Yeah, like you wanted to kick a pylon or something like that, or the goalpost. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's Coach Tapp for you.
This game in particular, with Texas coming off a 2-game losing streak, do you think that makes them more dangerous than if they were maybe even off of a 2-game winning streak?
I'm not going to say it makes them too dangerous. I think they're more dangerous. I think they're dangerous anyway. This team, as I've looked at, I saw some of the Oklahoma State game. I've seen them in different parts during the season. This is a fantastic football team. I can't tell. I think the Arkansas game is an outlier. I think they were between quarterbacks and I think they were probably smelling themselves a little bit after beating, what was then a top 20 ranked team. But we can't forget this team had OU dead to rights, was up on Oklahoma State, and a pick six turned the game around. They're solid. I'm not going to say they're world beaters, but they're solid. And when you have a solid football team that has lost 2 straight, and they know if they lose another one, it's over. There's no way they can get to the Big 12 championship game. If they win them all, they still need help, but they have a chance because they get Baylor, they get Iowa State. So in my mind, I think that this is probably going to be one of the best games they play. We'll get the fight that they probably haven't shown at any other time outside of probably the OU game.
JJ, Bijan's the headliner. We all know that, and he'll play a significant role. I mean, on average, he's got 100 yards plus a game. He catches a couple passes as well. He scores in every game, so I'd expect all that to probably take place this weekend as well. But Casey Thompson, what have been your thoughts on seeing him under the gun, seeing him throwing it downfield? You've seen what he can do. What kind of a challenge does the Baylor defense have from that standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, Casey, he, it's interesting. Coming in, I was surprised after I finally got to see him play. I can't believe he wasn't the day one starter. He may be a guy that plays better in the game than he does in practice. That happens. I used to do that. So that may be a deal, but I've seen him. He is a mobile guy. He can move, but he prefers to try to throw the ball first. So he's a guy that wants to work from the pocket, wants to throw if he has to move, but then he also hurts you with his legs. I like his deep ball. I think he throws an excellent deep ball. And even though he's a junior, he's still relatively inexperienced, although he's had a little bit of game action while Sam was there. But I like his overall game, and he's getting better, and this is the first year it's been his team, and he's playing well. I mean, the stats bear it out. I mean, he does have five INTs. In the Oklahoma State game, that pick six changed things, but Oklahoma State's a solid defensive football team, so that happens.
What are your thoughts about the off week as you come off such a critical win as far as playing a top 25 team? You're building momentum. You get the week off. Now, Texas did as well. How much does that play into to getting better, tweaking things, or would you rather have played this game last Saturday?
I'd rather play the last Saturday, and it's only because I think Baylor needed the week off. 7 games, they played really well. I think they needed a week off. I think UT needed a week off. I think it benefited UT more than it benefited Baylor because Baylor's on a roll. We're playing well. And, I don't have any doubt that we'll continue that. We may be a little rusty, but UT will be as well. But UT, they have that extra week to just kind of work on stuff, try to regain a little bit of that zest, that mojo, kind of work between the ears. I think the work for them is between the ears. It's not physical. So I would have rather played this last weekend only because we're playing UT this week. But nevertheless, both teams are in the same spot. I mean, they both are off. They both had those extra days, and they both come in relatively healthy, and that's all you can ask this time of year.
Coach Aranda talked a little bit about shaking up their tendencies this week and making sure to keep it fresh. What do you expect that to really mean, especially when it comes on offense for Baylor? Because I thought the last 2 weeks they had shaken up their tendencies.
Well, and that's what I think. I just think what he's saying is they're going to keep doing what they've done I think last week against BYU, they were very intentional about changing up tendencies. Now, the one thing I think I heard one of his interviews he may be talking about is, when Abram Smith is in a game, they have a certain set of plays that they like to run, that they prefer, that they probably use at a higher rate. When Treston comes in, there's a package so I believe that what he's saying is that when certain personnel are in, they'll change the tendency there. So maybe Abram Smith is in more on, passing downs, they'll throw a pass in that situation. So that I see the use of personnel because that sometimes signals to teams, Abram's in the backfield. Here's the set. These are the 4 likely plays we're about to see. So I think he'll shake up that a little bit. That allows them to have a few tendency breakers. But I think against BYU, Coach Grimes was very intentional. That game plan was probably the best game plan I've seen here in several years. Probably since Bryles was here. It was an excellent game plan, and it bore the fruit.
JJ, there's not a lot of weaknesses to really poke through with Baylor. I mean, the secondary, there were some big chunk plays against BYU, but, I mean, you look at a lot of those plays, and the coverage was actually pretty good. It's just, great plays being made by Nakua and others. So, I mean, what kind of a concern do you have entering this game in terms of Sarkisian and the Texas offense? I think the fact they've got 2 weeks to prepare is kind of daunting because of what he can do and plan for. But are you worried about or maybe not worried, maybe that's too strong a word. Are you concerned about the secondary? Where do you kind of look as far as that goes?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think, college coaches, football coaches, forget college coaches, are notorious. They plagiarize, man. That's only illegal in school, right? They're going to watch tape. They're going to copy. They're going to plagiarize. And until you stop it, Oklahoma State had, their good receiver. I forget his name. I forget his name. The Oklahoma State receiver.
Yeah.
He had a great day. What did he have? 6 for 101, 110 and a touchdown. He made some nice Moss catches. Last week we saw, the receiver. I'm forgetting his name too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nakua. All those names, man. I'll tell you, Nakua. But I mean, he just didn't matter who we put on him. It could have been Raleigh. It could have been Barnes. It could have been, Al. I mean, he was just mossing us, really. So, they have, Joshua Moore. His stats aren't going to jump off the page and kill you and make you think, oh, wow, he's great. Even Xavier Worthy, the freshman, they go deep. I mean, when I've seen them on occasion, I mean, those guys are running deep, and they're going to do it. I'm telling you now, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it, and they're going to do it because they feel like that's the way we attack this defense. So if I'm them, and I've said this, I wrote it on Sick 'em 365, my article, I said, look, Joshua Moore is 6'1". That doesn't seem like much, but he's a long 6'1". There's a different 6'1". He's long. His arms are long. His legs are long. And you have a quarterback that throws a really good deep ball. If he gets matched up against Raleigh, and it's no knock against Raleigh, they will go at him. So coach has to make a decision with Bijan Robinson in the backfield. Do I take Christian or JT out of the run game play and make sure I have some help over there? But they'll shoot it. And these guys have shown that they'll take chunks and they'll get chunks. And if they start chunk playing this is the kind of team that the score would be 28 points in the first half. If they do what BYU did. BYU guys wasn't going to run away from us. Right. These guys will.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, JJ. And they do love to throw it deep. And last year they hit a play. It was not a long pass, but it turned into a catch and run with, I think it was Black. Whoever it was caught a pass over the middle and then went another 30 or 40. But yeah, that's what I would do if they like to be able to get Bijan off going what he thinks, but I think that they will with Worthy and what you mentioned with Moore and others. Yeah.
I mean, and others. I mean, that's the question about Texas is who are the others, because it really is. It's Xavier Worthy, it's Joshua Moore, and it's Bijan Robinson as far as their receivers go. So I would be surprised if somebody else we see emerge maybe a little bit this weekend. But I think you're right, JJ, about Raleigh. I don't know how you can turn on that BYU tape and not go after him after what you saw. Just not that he's a bad player by any means, but just he struggled, and it was very clear. But, like you said, so did a lot of other guys against Puka Nacua. So we will see on that front.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, I hate to do it. I mean, it's big-time football, and it's not a knock because Raleigh is a top corner. But if you ask me, and this is just outside looking in, just, as an analyst looking, Raleigh, if he gets a chance at the next level, I don't know Raleigh's speed, I know his size, and if he gets a chance at the next level, and I think he should get, maybe free or something, it'll be as a nickel corner. It'll be as an inside guy. The NFL didn't put in a lot of 5'8", 5'9" guys on the edge, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm just thinking, to me, and you don't see many colleges do this, to me, it's matchups. Football is about matchups. That's why some teams you play well, others you struggle against, and people say, well, why is they got to beat by the other team by 20? How did you barely beat them? It's the matchup. So if I got a chance to match up accordingly, Raleigh is one of my top corners, would be on any slot guy, because slot guys are hard to cover, and any guy that's not 6'2" or tall. And then I got two 6'2", I got a 6'2" corner, 6'1" corner, Kalen and Al, and they do pretty decent in coverage. I'm not going to lose the fight just by genetics. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just thinking big picture. When we see OU, when we see UT, we see TCU has a couple tall edge guys. We got to be prepared. I'm hoping we're prepared for it, but it'll be a great contest.
JJ's talked a lot about height here. I'm going to go back to where he said there's different 6'1s, and if there's a short 6'1 or a stumpy 6'1, is there a place I can go to be that?
Yeah, one of those mirrors that stretches things up.
Hey, but Smoak, I mean, you've seen guys. Sometimes you see a guy.
Oh no,
there's 6'1". There's two guys that are 6'1". And you'll see a guy that's 6'1", and his arms go down to his freaking knee.
Yeah.
Right? And when he reaches up, that's what I'm talking about, Joshua Moore. If you just turn on the tape, you'll see this guy, and you're like, he's only 6'1". He's like all legs and arms.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you'll see another guy that's 6'1", and he has average arms. And it's a difference. And a lot of it has to do with their length. And Joshua Moore, while a very small fellow, as far as 6'1", 168, he's not the big guy. He's a long 6'1".
I just want to be described as a long 5'8".
Wait a minute. What are you?
5'7.5".
What?
Yeah, exactly. 5'8" is a stretch.
5'8" is a stretch. I'm 5'8". I'm 5'8", like Kendall Wright was 6'1".
We are getting out the measuring tape as soon as this segment is over. It's over.
Yeah, y'all do that. Put that on film.
Hey, JJ, anything to the fact that this could be the last time that Texas ever plays in Waco?
No, not really. I mean, it's interesting. My personal opinion is that, they want to get out, and I think the Big 12 wants to move on. I think next year will be kind of quick.
Yep.
It'd be kind of quick for them. But I think if push comes to shove, they'll have one more season. I think we may see them one more time. I do think this will be the last time for a while that they come to McLean.
Yeah.
So, that's something. And, I think you don't have to get guys up for UT anyway. So Baylor guys are ready. And I know just in case they want to get a W. They don't want this to end up being the last one. And, you don't want that on you later.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate it. We'll see you Saturday. JJ Joe, former Baylor quarterback and also radio color analyst for Baylor Radio. And I love the fact he said Coach Taft was blaring that fight song, the Aggies and Longhorns, the week that they were preparing for those games. By the way, our segments with Baylor brought to you by Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, Baylor Bear Hotline with JJ Joe. Appreciate his time with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Tonight, the era, not officially, but there's an exhibition game at the Farrell Center. The Baylor Bears and Nikki Collin opens up with an exhibition against A&M Commerce. First time anyone will see the new type of whatever they run on offense. A couple of new faces, and that will start.
The dropping of Lady.
Huh?
The dropping of Lady. No Lady Bears.
That's what I said, because that's what I've said for 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
That game tips off 7 o'clock against A&M Commerce. There's a couple exhibition games. Nelissa Smith, we mentioned that a couple of days, or yesterday. She was a preseason All-American as well. All right, when we come back, we had the quote from Jeff Traylor from earlier today when he was told or asked about the Texas Tech job, or at least the what's going on with that. And again, what he said was President Amy and Dr. Campos have been in front of this for a while. They've been very active in conversations with me this entire year. We're just working through some details. We're trying to get some things finalized so we can move forward together. Was that I'm staying at UT San Antonio? No, but it's about as close, in my opinion, although that could also just be him talking as well. But I think Jeff's trying to be as upfront with that as possible. We've seen what Mike Tomlin said. Like, basically, don't ever ask me again. And then we've seen others who have been a little bit more, philosophical. And then we have here with Jeff Traylor.
By the way, I do love the internet in some ways, because Mike Tomlin had that answer, and I found it bizarre. I really did. I mean, I know that as a white guy, there's probably things racially that just fly right past me, but I did not understand the whole racial angle that people were taking with the Mike Tomlin quote. So I loved, and you know what, like, again, that might just be flying by me, but to me, it was just an obvious thing of why would you leave the Pittsburgh Steelers to coach USC, just bottom line. But it was funny because certain people wanted to make that a certain way, and then the magic of the internet pulls up a John Harbaugh video from 2, 3, 4 years ago, getting asked about an open college coaching job, and he answers the question, and I don't remember that being some big, why, of course they asked him, it's so stupid what people try to make
and I don't
things.
I don't think Mike Tomlin was making it that way. I think he was just making a point of, you're not asking other NFL coaches this question. I'm an NFL coach.
Yeah, guys who had won Super Bowls.
Yeah, Super Bowls, yeah.
Coaches who have won Super Bowls as well.
Yeah,
all right, when we come back, we're going to hear from John Machota. Quite a bit to get to. Cowboys and Vikings Sunday night. And which means Kirk Cousins won't play well, because he does not play well in night games. But we'll have what's going on with Lyle Collins. Where is he on the depth chart? What position is he going to back up, or will he start? And if he does, where? All of that and more. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. A hidden gem And they've got a great selection of spirits, whatever you want. They pretty much have it. The most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco. They've got a walk-in fridge. You go in there right now, churning out, for fall stuff. It won't be long before you start to see the winter brews coming in as well. And they have just high-end bourbons, an array of them. I'll go through them now. Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, Bardstown. Great customer service and a speedy drive-through window. And when I say speedy, I mean if you drove up and saw 4 cars in front of you, believe me, you're not going to be sitting there that long. They're moving them through and moving them through and moving them through. You find out more information on Facebook and Instagram, or just pop by at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street.
New cars and trucks are coming. New car inventory is low, but GM just announced they will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. Now is the time to get on Richard Car's inbound vehicle list. Choose your inbound vehicle, get on the list, and get your car or truck first. Call Richard Carr Motors or go online to choose your inbound vehicle today. Go to richardcar.com for details.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic.
Just a sneak for Prescott, and he's in. Touchdown.
Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Cowboys back in action after their off week. Minnesota coming up this Sunday night. A little bit with still some questions in a way about Dak, and John Machota, theathletic.com, joins us, covers the Cowboys. John, I want to start with Lyle Collins. What is he? Is he a guard, a tackle? Is he a backup? Is he a starter? What's going on there?
Man, that was the most surprising thing today of that press conference. You know, you go into this thing thinking, all right, this is going to mainly the biggest thing that's going to come out of this is going to be whatever McCarthy says about what they're going to do with Dak today and for the rest of the week. And then halfway through, when it turns to, after those Dak questions are out of the way, and it turns to Lyle Collins, I did not expect him to say that Terrence Steele was going to start off the week remaining at right tackle. I just didn't. I thought that what they'd been saying the last couple of weeks about Lyle getting the job back right away, or not getting the job back right away, that, you know, it'd be a process or whatever. I was like, yeah, right. When he gets back, he'll be back at right tackle. And the fact that now he's on the depth chart as the backup right tackle and backup left guard, it's pretty fascinating because, and then obviously today in practice, we got to watch, you know, the first half hour or so, and he was getting reps with the second team at guard and at right tackle. And so it says a lot about several different things. One, that Terrence Steele obviously has played well in these previous 5 games that we didn't expect. And then it also tells you about the concern that they have in the middle of this offensive line, and not Zach Martin, but and Tyler Biadasz at center and Connor Williams at left guard. And so I think that's one of the reasons why they're trying this out as well, because Joe Philbin is a guy who last week we got a chance to talk to him for the first time in a long time, since basically he took the job as their offensive line coach over a year ago. You know, he said that he's a guy that likes his best 5. He wants the best 5 out there. And that could certainly mean Lyle Collins is a left guard. I don't know necessarily it'd be this week, but maybe that's where they're kind of ramping things up, you know, in the upcoming weeks, because they want to get stronger there, you know? And so that was just a surprise. I did not expect that. I thought for sure Lyle Collins was going right back to right tackle. So that was some interesting news we got today.
So the best 5 philosophy was not a thing last year when they needed to move Zach Martin to tackle, but has maybe Mike McCarthy softened on that stance?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because when that was announced today, one of the things in my mind right away was him saying last year about, well, this isn't fantasy football, about the Zach Martin thing. And I'm just like, and we're playing some fantasy football again over here. All right, okay. Yeah, I think that's changed. And that could be a Joe Philbin thing, you know? I mean, he certainly has a big voice in that room, and it's pretty clear that Terrence Steele has always been a guy that he's liked, whether it was signing him as an undrafted rookie free agent, or it was him being the guy that was put into the starting lineup last year when week after week, you know, we sat there watching those games going, they don't have a better option than this? This is awful. And I mean, hey, to Terrence Steele's credit, I mean, that's all guys talked about this offseason, is how he was, you know, in the weight room all the time, and how much he improved strength-wise. And you're just kind of like, yeah, okay, but he just looks significantly outmatched last year. Like, there's no way one offseason can make up for it. And, you know, they always talk about making that leap from first year to second year. And he's clearly made a leap. I still don't believe that he's a better right tackle than Lyle Collins. But if they view that he's a better right tackle than Connor Williams is a left guard, then I can see why you start moving some of these pieces around. But to your point, yeah, it does show that he's willing to move some things around to get this offensive line, you know, where he wants it to be. But Mike McCarthy, remember, is a big-time guy on the continuity of the offensive line and having the same 5 play week after week after week. And so if we're sitting here right now going into week 8 and they're still making adjustments, it just speaks volumes about, you know, they're not going to come out and say, like, you know, Connor Williams is awful, Tyler Biadasz is awful, but they're clearly not pleased with what's going on there, because the Cowboys are 5-1, and from the outside you're thinking, let's just keep this rolling. They clearly think that they can be better there, particularly in the middle.
John, what are they looking at as far as the injury situation? I know some guys are back as full participants, some limited. Kind of how's that shaking out?
Yeah, it's interesting because today we got to see, you know, Calvin Joseph was out there, and Michael Gallup and Tristan Hill and Sean McCune. I don't know that all those guys are going to be ready for this game, but the following week certainly seems like a real possibility. So that was interesting because these are some guys, particularly Tristan Hill, where you really didn't know from week to week if it's is Tristan 2 weeks away? Is he 3 weeks? Is he a month? Is he a month and a half? And then all of a sudden, they're taking him off PUP. I mean, because we had seen him a little bit at practice, but he was kind of working off on his own, because when you're on PUP, you're not supposed to be working with the coaches and the rest of the team. You're supposed to be kind of doing rehab stuff, which he was. But you're just sort of like, yeah, we've been seeing this since training camp. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's at practice today. So I don't think he'll be ready yet, but that's a good sign for a defensive line that it really doesn't sound like Neville Gallimore is going to be back with that elbow for at least another 3 to 4 weeks. And so if you can get a guy like Tristan Hill in there to help Osa Odighizuwa, I mean, that's pretty big, especially considering that they just moved Brent Urban to the injured reserve, which will put him out for the next 3 games. So like I said, I don't think Tristan Hill this week. If Kelvin Joseph plays this week, I think it'll only be on special teams. I don't think he's on the level yet where they would throw him into the mix. I think they're pretty pleased with what they have at corner right now with Trayvon Diggs and Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown. But maybe this is a week where Kelvin Joseph finally gets some time on some special teams or something like that. And then with Michael Gallup, I still think it's another week for him. I don't think he plays in this game, but I think the following week you'll see him back in the mix and probably back in the starting lineup.
Do you put Trayvon Diggs on Chase, or do you let him, depending on what, not Chase, who am I thinking about?
Thielen or Jefferson?
Justin Jefferson.
Jefferson or Thielen. I think Jefferson's more explosive. Thielen's also very, very good. He's had a pretty good year. They're not to the point where he has to follow them around, is he? Or do just whoever's on whatever side, that's what he does?
And it's funny you say Jamar Chase, because that's, Justin Jefferson said that was basically when they played in college, LSU against Alabama, that Trayvon Diggs was really on Jamar Chase most of the time, and Justin Jefferson was more in the slot. He said that this morning on Richard Sherman podcast. So that was kind of interesting, because I kind of wondered that too, just not realizing. Obviously, I watched those games, but if I was betting on it right now, I think Trayvon Diggs is going to follow Justin Jefferson. I really do. I just think that that's a guy that they want to take out of this game if they can, and it'll be interesting, because then that means Adam Thielen's going against Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown's been pretty good, these last few weeks, but Anthony Brown wasn't very good against Antonio Brown in the season opener, and this will be a game where Adam Thielen's no slouch. He's going to have his hands full, and act like, to your point though, maybe they do keep guys on a certain side. If they were to do that, I mean, both those receivers are talented. I mean, it's not going to be easy for either one. But I just have a feeling I think Trayvon Diggs is going to be on Justin Jefferson.
John, Dak Prescott, I saw your tweet, moving around pretty good. Do you think he's, quote unquote, crossed the threshold?
That was interesting that Mike McCarthy kept throwing out that threshold word. It's funny. I came into today being like, oh, yeah, Dak's playing, no doubt about it. And then the McCarthy press conference, I'm kind of like, he's being a little bit more cautious than I thought. Is this some gamesmanship? And then practice ends, and that's our first opportunity to kind of talk to guys. CD Lamb said that he thought it looked like his regular old normal Dak. And I'm leaning on that more, just because out of our 30 minutes of watching it today is the beginning part, and Dak's warm-up, which was, doing a lot of stuff off to the side with athletic trainer Britt Brown, a lot of cord work and stuff like that. It was longer than he normally has for his warm-up. And so I kind of was thinking, well, we might not even see him do individual. But then he got into the individual, and I'm sure he did some teams for CD to sit there and say that he looked like the same old Dak. And at the very end of CD's interview, he mentioned, he was asked again a follow-up question about Dak, and he said 90% is where he would put it right now, these things Dak plays in the game. And I think that's a great percentage. I would agree with that. I think that's about where it's at. And the only thing that makes up the other 10%, why I wouldn't say 100, is just because I think they do want to still see how he will first comes out of today's practice, how he feels tomorrow, then how he comes out of that practice. And as long as there isn't a setback, I think he plays. But it was interesting, Mike McCarthy's answer when he was asked about the fact that he coached Aaron Rodgers in that 2014 playoffs when they beat Cowboys in the Dez Catch game, and then they went and lost in Seattle. Aaron Rodgers was dealing with a calf injury. And basically Mike McCarthy was like, it's not the same thing because this is the playoffs. Like, of course he's going to play. Whereas where the Cowboys are 5-1, comfortable leading the division, that puts a little something else on your plate to think about. Even with that being said, I still expect Dak Prescott to be out there in Minnesota Sunday night.
Yeah, I think he's one of those. He missed so much time last year. You're going to have to kill him or have a 2 or 3 game lead, number one seed in the playoffs, and rest him at the end of the year. John, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Great stuff this week. Absolutely. the Lyle Collins story.
I just think it's, and David Hellman made a great point about it Monday. I mean, Lyle Collins wants to play tackle. I mean, that's what he wants. But
where the money is, right?
But that's where the money is. But again, they're already paying him. He's already got a contract. So I wonder what happens at center. Like, do you reevaluate that too? Does
is Lyle Collins looking down the road? Tyron Smith has to always battle the neck or the back or whatever. Is Lyle Collins someone that if Terrence Steele plays this well, even with the struggles they have in the middle, is he someone that they would ever look at trying to save some money on the cap?
Well, think about what they have to do next year. And
with Dak's money going up again.
Dak's money's up. That contract is big. You've got Leighton Vander Esch is a free agent. Randy Gregory's a free agent. All the guys you brought in on one-year deals this year are free agents. And you may want to Gallup is a free agent. Cedric Wilson's a free agent. And so they've got a lot. And so say one of those guys, you're probably not going to keep all four of the guys you brought in on one-year deals, and some of them might be back. Like Malik Hooker, you could probably get back another one-year deal because he's still kind of proving it. But, say you want to bring Jaron Kearse back. He's played really well. What is that going to cost you? Or Keanu Neal or whatever that is. Is that going to cost you more money? Leighton Vander Esch is going to be a long-term contract if you bring him back. Randy Gregory is going to be a long-term contract, and he's a defensive end who's been playing really well in the absence of DeMarcus Lawrence. So if you save money by maybe shipping Lyle Collins off to an offensive line needed, like what would the Chiefs give for Lyle Collins right now?
Well, not just the Chiefs.
But I mean, I'm just giving you that example of the Chiefs are that desperate, and they've got a $500 million quarterback back there who's getting lit up right now. So
I think there's got to be value at the same time. You do let him walk. Let's say Terrence Steele's just having a pretty good year. And then Williams just never progresses. And then Biadasz is struggling at center. And next thing you know, Tyron Smith goes out because of the back. And next thing you know.
But I think you're seeing, I can tell you what the draft plan for the Cowboys this year had 11 draft picks. And they used almost all on defense, save for 2 players. And this year, I think the draft plan is going to be big guys, offensive and defensive line.
All right, when we come back, we got a couple more minutes to go here. We have not been to the chat room in a while, but we can get to some of those.
You never read Sonny Dykes' response either.
Did I send that? I don't know if I sent that to you, Armstrong, the Sonny Dykes one. Craig, do you have that? Did I? No. I don't think I did.
I mean, I could find it when we come back and read it off.
We don't have a break until Paul's top 5. So if you could find, we'll try to see if we can get Sonny Dykes bite. We did the Jeff Traylor one, also mentioned the James Franklin agent change as well. Let's see here. On the chat room, let me just try to find something that was one of the things that we were talking about. The grant of media rights that we continue to discuss on occasion when it comes to any conference, the Big 12, for example. A lot of times people get mixed up in what are the exit fees, the penalties, and the grant of rights. The grant of rights and the exit fees are completely different, but the grant of rights 2-year average is what equals how much an exit fee would be for a team to leave the conference. That's why you hear $80 million for Oklahoma and $80 million for Texas, because on average, that's probably about where it is with the Big 12. But the grant of rights, did you know that the Big 12, like being a member of the Big 12 is like a 100-year deal?
I did not know
like
that.
Like a 99-year deal that you're a part of the Big 12. And so even that is something that I didn't know that. I didn't know. Why would it be 99 years? I don't know. But that's one of those things that's also out there as well. So when you discuss what Oklahoma and Texas can try to do, no matter what, there will be exit fees. Period. And the Big 12, because of how it went down, I'm not trying to go reverse hamster wheel back to late July, but I had this question about why is it $80 million? Because that's the average or around the average of the 2 years of the grant of rights where each team gets money from the network. Secondly, the exit fees are those 2 years. The penalties could be completely different. You could just name a name. I mean, they can name a number. The Big 12 can do that. And then on top of that, the grant of rights, even if Texas and Oklahoma were to leave, and let's say they flipped the finger at the Big 12 and said, screw you, we're leaving, whatever, the Big 12 can keep that money even when they're in the SEC. We've discussed that before, but somebody asked me to kind of go back and review that again. Common sense ESPN holds less cards than we think. They have more competition. All the streaming services, more people stream than watch cable. Deloitte and Tooch.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of just all media content, that's true. But in sports, I mean, it's pretty narrowed down now. I mean, CBS isn't going to be in the SEC football game for much longer, and we talk about Amazon and we talk about Netflix. Like, I've seen no indication that Netflix is airing live games anytime soon. Like, I don't know about you, but there's nothing that's given me any reason to believe that Netflix is going to be airing college football in the immediate future.
Yeah.
Amazon, they already do the NFL, so you could see that being a smoother transition. But, what if these streaming services aren't as interested in as we think? That's to me what is going to be that kind of the wild card, because everybody just sort of assumes, and that is the direction we're going, so it makes sense to assume that that's the direction that college football broadcasts will go as well. But, there hadn't really been a whole lot of news on that front.
No, and a lot of people are getting out of the big time. ESPN bid for the NBA contract essentially against themselves.
Yeah.
And the NBA got this big TV contract, and ESPN was really kind of only interested in it, to that level themselves. So there are those things that happen, and because Fox is backed way off. I mean, they have two, Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2 right now. They don't have the other stuff. It's Bally now. They've sold it off, and then we'll see. I think the other ones will get in, but I think they want to see what the market shakes out as, and they want to see what ESPN's going to pay for certain things, and then what they have to pay for other things. And the other thing I think that is probably complicating some college deals right now is that the NFL has just made a new TV deal that is not completely final yet, and the NFL Sunday Ticket's about to move, and a streamer's going to bid big on that. So that's going to, and they want it to go to a streamer. They want it to. I think that's where the NFL wants it to be, on Amazon or an Apple TV Plus. But they have to see where that goes. So that's money that's going to come first. NFL money is going to come before college money all the time. So you have to wait on all that stuff. So there are things in their way. And then once I think that stuff shakes out, then you might see NBC go, yeah, okay, we want more stuff than just Notre Dame on Peacock. Or CBS says, yes, we want more stuff than what we have on Paramount Plus, and so on and so forth. But right now, and like you said, Craig, Netflix isn't getting involved. Netflix is still the number one streamer in spite of the fact that there's all this competition that didn't exist for them in the market just 3 years ago. Yeah. So they're still the number one streamer. So why should they spend more money than they're already spending? And they spend a lot of money to bring stuff in when they're still number one.
Yeah, and then, there's what are your other options? HBO Max? Well, they're not going to air Big 12 football.
Yeah.
They're not going to be interested in that. I'm curious to what that streaming part of things actually looks like, because there's a lot of assumptions, but not really concrete evidence that that's going to be a certainty, moving forward in the next few years. As far as going back to Sonny Dykes, he had a very nothing quote, but you read off Jeff Traylor's twice. So, here's what Dykes said. He said, look, we're focused on getting ready for Houston. I'm not ever going to talk about other jobs. I just don't think it's fair to anybody. Look, our guys are excited to play. We're focused to play. We know how big of a game this is for our program, and no one's worried about anything other than playing well Saturday night. So, whole lot of nothing really from Sonny Dykes.
Kind of what he said a couple of days ago, too, pretty much. Is that right?
That's what he said a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
That's what he said yesterday. Oh. So, that's his, take on the coaching rumor mill.
All right. When we come back, we'll have Paul Catalina. Here's one let's see. Would Hulu jump in?
Hulu's
from Jeff. And Caden says Hulu is Disney.
Yeah, they're essentially ESPN. Any sports you see on Hulu is part of an ESPN deal.
Yeah,
because Disney is all under one overarching umbrella. So.
Yep, Apple TV. I see somebody mentioned that one as well. That'd be interesting. I just wonder. What are you expecting your return on investment to be? Because, do you feel like if you, let's say, the Big 12 is not obviously the top most wanted conference, but let's just use them as an example. Or I guess you could use like the SEC. The SEC, you can see where the money's coming from because they've proven it over and over and over again. That's why you get these giant TV deals, and they've got, obviously, Texas and Oklahoma coming in. They've got a number of massive name programs now that can draw eyeballs. But if you're pretty much anybody else, really? Even the Pac-12, okay, outside of USC and Oregon and Washington, how many people are signing up for Apple TV just to see Oregon State football? You know what I mean? I'm just curious from the networks and the streamers' standpoint of what they think would actually bring them big time return.
And Apple has their own content they're producing, which they're putting a lot of money in. I mean, Tom Hanks is doing movies for them, 2 of them so far. So that means a lot of money. What the NFL, and I'll tell you that the rumor is in the NFL would like Apple TV to get the Sunday ticket because they think that Apple can essentially, to get people to Apple TV Plus, just shell out that money and not really raise. It's $4.99 a month. It's a pretty good deal for something, and not really raise their price more than $1 a month and pay for it, because then they get all these sports fans to Apple TV who couldn't care less about C or the morning show or defending Jacob.
But hopefully they'll go watch Ted Lasso.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so they'll come and watch that. So
somebody asked me as well, or us, about why is the Big 12 looking down the road so far about a 10-game conference or this and that. What was NIL 5 years ago?
A whole lot of nothing, really.
What was it 2 years ago?
A murmur.
What was the transfer portal 2 years ago?
Well, that was a little bit more chaotic, because that one you could see directly, like that's going to have an effect.
Down and you could see the NIL could, right? But we had no idea.
Well, I mean, NIL, you think about like what it could look like, and I think so much of the talk about NIL was what it could look like and how it could spiral and all of that. There was a lot of talk about that with the transfer portal as well. The transfer portal is pretty cut and dry. It's players can leave, go in the portal, and then go somewhere else. And whereas with NIL, it's kind of just, it depends on where you look. There's no exact sort of science to it. But no, I mean, to your point, it's about looking down the road. It's about looking at.
You better do that.
Yeah, it's about the fact that you got caught with your pants down this summer, and you're very lucky to even be alive as a conference, and you're very lucky that there were a bunch of teams that wanted to come join and strengthen your conference. And so now the last thing you can afford to do is you look up in a couple of years when other conferences' grant of rights are coming up, and all of a sudden the Pac-12 plucks Oklahoma State and Texas Tech,
16,
and then you're back down to 8. And so it's just being proactive is what it's being.
That's exactly what it's being. And you know what? It's about time. And there are some people who are helping the Big 12. Okay, you're dead. You're down you're in the creek. You're bloody. You're gone. And now let's pull you up. And you still have to make right decisions. You still have to be able to get things done. And they've been able to do that, but also now not just be happy with 12. Some of you want to argue all you want to 16. That's fine. I'm not taking one of those two sides right now. But you also have to look ahead what's going to be going on in college sports in the next 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, and 10 years. Because I remember when the 13-year grant of rights started, and I was like, my God, that's way down the road. And here we are, not that far from that being over.
And the timelines leading to around 24, 25 is when you really could see chaos. So you want to be as settled in as possible and as loaded for bear as possible.
When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5 to end up the show on 365 Sports. Select ribeyes, choice ribeye steaks, and also prime ribeye steaks from anywhere $12.99 a pound, $15.99 a pound, and $22.99 a pound. Whichever one you want, however you want to spend, whatever your budget is, that's ribeye steaks available at Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Bacon ends at $2.99 a pound. The other day, I brought in just a little small Tupperware of what are those called, Paul? What did I bring in? The little square pork and
pork belly.
Pork belly. And they have pork belly available. They also can give you the whole thing. I would suggest you ask them to take up all the fat and even cut it if they can, because that's a chore. They have pork belly, and it's fantastic. You could put honey on it. You could put barbecue sauce on it. You want to cook it however you want. Put it in the oven. You want to put it in the broiler. You want to put it in the smoker. It is delicious little snack of pork belly as well. Thin sliced chicken breast, $2.35 a pound. And for tailgating, for maybe Saturday, for Texas and Baylor, it's an early game, smoked pork tenderloin, $4.50 a pound. They have that. They have more. They have charcoal. They have pellet fuel. And right now, a $100 steak box, $5 off at $95. Brian Bauer and the family have done an incredible job at Waco Custom Marketplace. Huge Baylor fans at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. When you contact people about insurance, and people are hit up with it all the time, what do you tell them? What do you say? I know you say you educate, but Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is obviously successful for a lot of different reasons. And has hundreds of thousands.
It's personal service. Okay. It's one-on-one service. Just yesterday, went to a client's house, met with the couple, went over all the coverages, and they said, wow, we've, never had this before. We've had this different insurance and that different insurance, but we've never had somebody actually come to the house and go over everything with us. And wow, we really appreciate that, especially this day and time where it's just a click of a button and you really don't know who you're dealing with. It's a different person you call every time you call that 800 number. You don't know who your agent is. Now they have a face with the name, and it's more personal service.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Top 5 coaches who will have a new home in 2022. I'm not predicting the home. I'm just saying they're going to have a new one. Some of these kind of hit close to the 254. Number 5, Jeff Lebby at Ole Miss. When you are an SEC offensive coordinator with an offense like this, I think it's maybe inevitable, and it may not be the job, maybe some of the jobs that we're thinking of, but I think somebody's going to hire Jeff Lebby.
He has been separated from when he was gone in 2016 from Baylor to where he was at. Was it Florida Atlantic? Mm-hmm. And then was it Florida State? No, well, not Florida State. And now Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And there was one other place, I think, in between. I think he's ready. I think he's actually slightly ahead maybe of even Kendall.
Well, I mean, their offense is a little bit is better.
Yeah.
You know, they're a better team, and And the other thing is, nobody works for Lane Kiffin all that long.
Well, he's got a better quarterback.
He's got a better. Yeah, that's very true.
Helps a lot.
Yeah, but he's part of coaching that quarterback. So those are the things that are going to help him along. But I think Jeff Lebby is probably going to get a job. It may not be Texas Tech. That would be probably the biggest one he would be up for. But I think he's going to get something. And like, heck, it might be Washington State. We don't know. I mean, if they want to run a spread, I mean, this is a guy who could very well do it at Washington State. Number 4, Joey McGuire. And I just think I don't obviously have any inside information on this. I'm
going to kick you right between.
And here's why I say this. Baylor's kind of held it off for a couple years. Eventually there's going to be a job open that they're going to get him. And the guy is going to be a college head coach and a dang good one. He's going to be a really good college head coach.
He has had the opportunity. It wasn't timing. It wasn't the right time. I think now when you see schools in Texas have openings, that's where he's going to end up at some point. I'm not saying Tech. I don't know about anyone else. I'm just saying watch him. And I agree.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him near the top of the list for Tech. I think there's too many other good candidates that are more proven. But I think he would definitely be deserving of at least an interview. And I view Joey as someone who, Sonny Dykes leaves SMU. That'd be interesting. Texas State decides to change things up. That's the type of step up that I see him taking. And I think part of it, and I don't want to speak for Joey, but I think part of it too was making sure that Baylor was in a good spot when he left, and I think they are now. And I think he can rest assured, hey, I did my work here, and it's time for me to take that step forward.
Yeah. Number 3, Jamie Chadwell. I think this is a guy that, especially if you want to build a program and you may not have a lot of resources at the beginning, this is a guy you want. I think Jamie Chadwell is a perfect fit for what Miami is got right now. I think Jamie Chadwell to Miami, but there are several other programs that could do really a lot worse than Jamie Chadwell.
I wonder if the loss last week notched him down a notch or two.
I hope not. It shouldn't. Teams are going to lose.
We had him on. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Number 2, Jeff Traylor. I mean, there's a lot of heat around this guy. He's doing nothing but winning, and sometimes, and he said all the right things about UTSA, but man, it's just hard to turn down some of that stuff.
So you're saying he's gone?
I think he's got to go.
Well, I think his quote today was. I took his quote differently than others.
But. I made this top 5 before I heard that, so I'd be happy to say I'm wrong on this one. I just, and again, I'm not a person who has to be right. Doesn't matter to me.
He seems to be.
You live to die. You're right. You're wrong. Who cares?
I would say this about Jeff Traylor. He's going to take a step up at some point. It's going to be probably in the state of Texas. So that really limits. I mean, Aranda's not leaving Baylor right now as far as we know. And we can go down the list. Patterson's still not on the hot seat, even though there's rumbling. So it would take a Sonny Dykes leaving SMU. And I don't know if SMU would even be a big enough step up for him. Yeah. So kind of boils down to Tech, quite frankly.
Yeah. And number 1, James Franklin. You change agents, and that's a sign to me. That's plus LSU and USC are both on this guy, and he's going to get so much money thrown at him. I think that he's going to go, and plus it's warmer in both those places. So why wouldn't you leave?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of rumors. I expect him to stay at Penn State, and I may be way off on that, but or more so, I should say. Rather than just expecting him to stay at Penn State, I think the others have a lot better chance of moving on than Franklin does for PSU, in my opinion.
Yeah, and one of the things you hear about schools that have coaches that are moving, like SMU has to deal with Dykes and UT San Antonio with Traylor or whatever Baylor's had to deal with in the past. Here's Penn State having to maybe lose a guy, and they're a blue blood. All right, thanks to Jack McKenzie. Hayden Bumpus came in after taunting us yesterday on the chat room. Armstrong Sims, thank you very much. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, all of you, so many of you that keep us going. We love it. We appreciate you coast to coast. We have a lot of different guests lined up already for tomorrow, for everyone I've mentioned, for our incredible sponsors, and for you. I'm David Smoak. Good night. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.